Chapter 1. My brother taught me a singular, brutal truth. Never let them see you bleed. Walk tall. Face blink. Armor up. Because in this hallway, surrounded by smiles that sharpen into knives the moment you turn your back, weakness is a death sentence. The open loop I thought I had mastered the art of the frozen heart. I was ready to survive senior year just to get out of here. But then, the air shifted. A scent hit me, intoxicating, electric, and terrifying. My wolf stirred. My pulse hammered. The universe was playing a cruel game, and before I could run, I felt eyes burning into my skin. The encounter I turned, frowning, but it was too late. A hand clamped onto my arm, iron and heat, dragging me stumbling down the hall and into the hollow silence of an empty classroom. Audino Reyes, the school's apex predator. The boy who collected hearts just to break them. And now, the source of the pull that was tearing me apart. "You're my mate," he asked, the words heavy with disbelief. I stared at him. The moon goddess had to be laughing. Me? Made it to the biggest player in the history of the school? Yes. The word tasted like ash. The rejection, the climax. He smirked, a cold, calculated twist of his lips that promised pain. "Well, then I, Audino Reyes, reject you, Cristalina Montez, as my mate and Luna." The words were a physical blow, a phantom blade to the gut. But I remembered the rule, hide the weakness. "Well, guess what, jerk?" "I don't care," I shouted, my voice steady despite the agony shredding my insides. "Because I, Cristalina Montez, accept your rejection." The visceral reaction I growled, throwing his disgust right back at him. Inside, it felt like being hit by a truck and having pure wolfsbane poured into the open wounds. But I stood my ground. I watched his smirk falter. Shock, then regret, then the cold mask of nothingness returned. I didn't stay to watch the show. I turned on my heel and walked out. The moment I hit the fresh air, the mask slipped. I felt reckless. I needed to run. The escape and identity reveal, smooth exposition. The roar of my bike's engine drowned out the world as I tore toward the forest. "I can't believe he rejected us, my wolf," Diamant whined in my head. "He's a loser, Diameter. We're better off." I pulled up to my sanctuary, a hidden cave I discovered at 10 years old while outrunning rogues. It was fitting. I was running again. See, I'm not just some heartbroken teenager. I am Cristalina Montez, daughter of the Alpha of the Blood Moon Pack, leader of the most feared gang in the U.S. I have green eyes that have seen too much and a white wolf with a rare navy crown who refuses to bow. I dragged myself onto the old couch I'd stashed here years ago, surrounded by my blankets and my silence. I was happy to be free of a player like Audino. But as the adrenaline faded, the silence of the cave grew heavy. Finding a second chance mate is a myth we tell ourselves to sleep at night. And tonight, I realized I might be lonely forever. Chapter 2. When I got home, I showered, then went to the kitchen. I walked in and greeted my mom and dad. Mom loves cooking, and my dad likes to be near my mom. I went into the living room with my brother and sat down next to him. He graduated last year and is preparing to take over Dad's alpha position. He has black hair and green eyes like me, and he is overprotective. Last year, he threatened a boy, telling him not to touch me or else, just because he gave me a sheet of paper to write on. "Sup, bro?" "Hey, sis, what's up?" he asked while looking through the fridge. "The sky," I replied with a smirk. "Obviously." "What have you been up to and how is the gang?" he asked. "Nothing. I found my mate only to get rejected, and the gang is great. We did a drop yesterday." "Everything is cool," I answered really fast. "You what?" he shouted, and Mom and Dad came running into the living room. "You heard me, and way to kill my eardrums," I said, rolling my eyes. "What's going on?" Dad asked. "She got rejected by her mate today," Brandy answered. "Oh, honey, it's going to be okay." "But who was it?" Mom asked, but I hesitated to answer. "Audino Reyes, Alpha of the Moonshine Pack," I said nervously. "That's it, the little jerk is dead." "No one rejects our sister," Brandy said. "Well, more like Blair, his wolf." He was about to shift, but Mom went over to him to calm him down. "Oh, Things were about to get real. I'm fine, really, and I'm glad that he did reject me because I accept it, so the bond will be gone in 2 weeks, I said, going upstairs to my lab with a forced smile on my face. Oh, and do you have any rogues? I have to test my latest invention, I asked. Last time you tested one of your inventions, you caused severe damage to the target, Brandy said as he shivered. I pouted. Daddy, can I have a rogue? Of course, honey. I'll pick out a suitable one this time, he replied. Thanks, Daddy. I turned and continued walking, but not before hearing Daddy's Girl from Brandy. I got to my room, found my lab remote, and pressed it. This is where I do all my experiments, like making specialized devices and explosives. Yes, I make dangerous stuff. No one comes in here because I have cameras and traps almost everywhere. I had finished what I wanted, which is a wolfsbane bullet to neutralize a target, last week, but I had to perfect it. Now I was going to test it, but I can wait until tomorrow. I walked back to my room, closed the lab, and called Natalie. We talked for an hour, and then I fell asleep. Chapter 3. I woke up feeling incredibly restless. I had a dream of light blue eyes, dirty blonde hair, and a voice that made you want to melt. I couldn't see his body in the dark. I got up, showered, washed my hair, and shaved. I curled my hair and went in my closet to pick out a muscle tee that read "I hate you" on the front, black skinny ripped jeans, and my favorite combat boots. I put on my makeup, grabbed my wallet, book bag, and keys, then went downstairs. I got an apple and sat down. My brother came down and made coffee, which I declined. It was 7:30, and school started at 8 o'clock, so I went into the living room, turned on the TV, and settled in to watch SpongeBob SquarePants. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants. I was singing until Brandy came in, saw me, shook his head, and left. I got up, went into the kitchen, got a granola bar, and looked at the time. It was 8:15, so I hurried to my car, got in, and drove to school. The drive only took about 15 minutes because I sped. Let's say Fast and Furious hasn't got anything on me. I got out of the car and sprinted to the office for a pass. Why do I care about going to school, you ask? Because I want to graduate from this place. So, going to school would be the best idea. I was walking to class when I ran into a wall and fell on the floor. Seriously, who put a wall in the middle of the hallway? Ow! I winced, getting up while rubbing my back. Dude, are you the Hulk or something? I think you broke my tailbone. Are you going to apologize? I said, looking up. When I did, I wished I hadn't, because blonde hair and blue eyes were looking at me. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. Oh no. You can keep the apology. Bye, I said, making a run for it. But before I could take off, I was grabbed by him. I felt tingles shoot through me. That's impossible, but my wolf was jumping for joy. Where do you think you're going, love? He said in a British accent. Why must the goddess torture me? To class, where I need to be, I answered, looking into his eyes. Big mistake. Mate. That was all he said before he pressed his lips to mine. His breath tasted like mint. You are mine and mine only. He pulled away and looked into my eyes. I'm not a possession, I glared up at him, getting mad. Watch your tone, love. I will not be disrespected. He said, angry power rolling off him in waves. Whatever. I'm going to class, I said before walking away, but not before he pulled me in and kissed me again. Chapter 4. I can't believe I just met my mate. She smells like vanilla and cherry blossoms. She is everything I ever needed. She is funny, feisty, and stunning, though she needs to show some respect. I'll still love her anyway. And those lips, I could kiss her nonstop. She is different, and I can feel it. My name is Lucas Phillips. I appear to be 20 years old, but I am actually 1,000 years old. I have been looking for my mate for 300 years. I have the most powerful pack in the world since I am the prince of all supernaturals, which means I possess the abilities of every supernatural creature and hold rare powers. My parents are the king and queen. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, Lucas and Roxana, and I love them with my life. My pack and I moved here from England because we were tired of the scene, and most of us haven't found our mates yet. I am happy that I found my mate, and I will do everything in my power to keep her safe. I walked back to my car from school after dropping off my siblings. I saw a Bugatti, the same one I saw when I visited Alpha James last night. He is a family friend and leads the second strongest pack in the world. I know he has a son and a daughter, but I have never met them. I also know his daughter leads a gang. My family is having dinner with theirs, so I guess I will meet them tonight. I got in my car and drove home, thinking about my mate. Chapter 5. After this morning's encounter with my mate, school had been pretty boring, except at lunch when we had 2 new students, a boy and a girl. Now we were in the last period, which is gym. Natalie froze in her spot, looking at a guy like a kid in a candy shop. The guy turned around and Natalie gasped. She seemed captivated. The guy turned around and told the students to sit on the bleachers. I guess he is the new gym teacher. Everyone gathered and sat down, waiting for the teacher to speak. Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Scotty, and I'm your new gym teacher, he said with a British accent. What is up with the British guys today? Is there an invasion or something? Some of the girls were daydreaming about the teacher, while others were flirting and asking him personal questions. I actually heard Natalie growl a couple of times beside me. She got up and walked out the door. I guess she couldn't stand him being near other women. He followed her out to see what was happening. She was definitely going to give him a hard time. The bell rang and I walked out of school, but I felt someone watching me. I shrugged my shoulders and got in my car. I drove home listening to music, singing, and dancing in my seat. Honey, remember that we have dinner with some of your father's friends tonight? My mom mind-linked me, interrupting my music. I totally forgot that Dad was having the Royals over for dinner. I had planned to meet up with someone to handle business, but I could do that afterward. Okay, Mom. Do you have any snacks at home? I'm hungry, I asked. Yes, I baked vanilla cake and cookies, she replied, then cut the link. I got home 15 minutes later, went straight to the kitchen, and devoured the cookies Mom left out. Then I did some homework. My mom and dad were at a meeting, so they were not home, and neither was my brother. I went in my room, changed into my black bikini, and headed to the pool in the backyard for a swim. The water touched my skin, and I felt at ease. I did a couple of laps in the water, then got out. I looked at the time, 4:30, so I lay by the pool, thinking. Soon, I fell asleep. I woke up to find it dark. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. It was 6 p.m., and the dinner started at 7 p.m. With that, I ran to my room, got in the shower, and washed my hair. I got out and went to my closet. I picked out a plum strapless dress that fit snug at the top and loose at the bottom, and black pumps. I did my makeup, curled my hair, and put it in a fishtail braid. I put on my clothes and spritzed some perfume on my neck. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. It was 7:15 p.m. I took some pictures, and then the doorbell rang. I closed my door and made my way downstairs. When I was on the steps, I heard laughing. Cries, the guests are here. Dad shouted, and I was right behind him. Gosh, Dad, way to kill my eardrums, I said in a dull tone. I swear I heard the big bad alpha scream. Darn it, Crystalina, make some noise when you're in the room, Dad said, and everyone laughed. Filio, this is my daughter, Crystalina, said Dad. Crystalina, this is my longtime friend Filio, his wife, and his 3 kids. I greeted Filio and his wife, then his kids. I gasped when I saw the new kids and my mate, who was smirking at me. Oh no, he's the prince, just my luck. Dad, I don't feel too good. May I please be excused? Honey, are you all right? He asked, concerned. Yes, I answered, walking off into the kitchen. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my waist and could tell by the sparks that it was my mate. Hello, love, he said, walking me from the kitchen and towards the backyard. Hi, I don't even know your name, I said. Lucasian, love, he whispered in my ear. His breath tickled my ear and smelled like mint. Then he kissed me on the cheek and then my lips. Our lips fit like 2 puzzle pieces. I held back a deep breath, realized what I was doing, and pushed him off me. I'm still mad at you, Lucasian, I said, folding my arms across my chest. I know, and I'm sorry for being possessive, he said, sighing. He placed a kiss on my forehead and then hugged me. "Let's get back inside," I said. When I turned around, I froze because both families were standing at the door, smiling. I blushed and hid my face in his chest, and he chuckled. Chapter 6. After dinner, our family went into the living room, but I went in my room and changed my clothes into black skinny jeans, a white shirt, a black blazer, and combat boots. I grabbed my keys and my briefcase and made my way downstairs. I heard laughter, so I went into the living room to find my mom showing them meeting Lucasian and his family, home videos and baby pictures of my brother and me. I walked up to the TV and stood before it. "Mom, what did I tell you?" I asked her, smirking. "Not to bring the videos or the photos out," she said, looking scared. "Do you know what happens when you bring them out?" "And who told you to bring them out anyway?" I asked. She looked at someone across the room. I turned around and saw that it was none other than my mate. "Was he alone?" She shook her head no. Philios spoke up now. "Kristalina, it was all the kids." "He's a snitch, but okay." "Thanks, Filio." "Bro, you know what's going to happen, right?" I asked Brandy excitedly. "Yeah, prank war," he said sadly. "No, that's not going to happen. Last time, you immobilized him and put him into a room disguised as a forest where he spent days hallucinating," Dad said. "Dad, do you know what happens when you interfere with our little war?" I said, reminding him. "Don't remind me. You can have your little war, but no bombs, explosives, or bullets. Those things are dangerous," he said, then walked out, shaking his head with Filio and his wife. "What does he mean by bullets?" asked Lucasian. "See, I make bullets like the ones that knock you out, paralyze you, or contain wolfsbane. That one has much variety," I said. "Roxana, do you want to be on my team?" She nodded, looking confused. "Honey, it's boys against girls." "Meet me here tomorrow morning," I said, walking out. I turned around and gave the boys a smirk, and they gulped. "Night, mate." I winked at Lucasian, who was still in shock. Chapter 7. I got to the warehouse, grabbed the briefcase, and stepped out of my car. I walked up, opened the door, and saw 3 men standing around with their backs to me, looking at someone. I cleared my throat, and they all turned to face me. I got a glimpse of who was tied up. It was Natalie. How did they get her? I walked up to the man and handed him the briefcase. He handed me his. We both looked inside, and then he pulled a gun on me. "Really?" "This is not the amount I signed for," he said, pointing his gun at me. "Well, you get what you give." "Well, you can't get away with that now, can you?" He took the safety off the gun and was about to pull the trigger. In one swift movement, I took out my weapon and fired, hitting my target. I shot the other one, knowing that it would be minutes before the special rounds took effect. "Come on, Talia," I said, picking up the briefcases, smirking. "How did you figure out that I wasn't tied up anymore? Was she serious?" "She's my best friend and always has a knife." "Do you want me to answer that?" "No," she said, smirking, then stopped and looked at something behind me. So, being me, I turned around with the weapon in my hand. Oh no, I thought. "Hey, babe. This is Talia, my best friend." "And Talia, this is my mate, Lucasian," I said, scratching the back of my neck. He walked up to me and kissed me deeply, then trailed kisses across my jaw to my ear before stopping. "Don't ever do that again." "Now let's go," he said sternly. He picked up the cases and handed them to Natalie along with my keys. He picked me up and threw me over his shoulder. I looked at Talia and saw amusement fill her eyes. We got to the car and he put me in and buckled me up, then shut the door. He walked to his side and got in. Wow, what a gentleman. He turned the car on and drove off. He turned the radio on, and I was glad because you could feel the tension in the car. Ellie Goulding's Burn was playing, and I found myself singing, but then he turned it off in the middle of the song. Jerk. 10 minutes later, we were walking in the forest when he finally stopped, but I continued going. He grabbed me, but I took off running to my cave. I knew he was following me. I got to my cave, and Lucasian was right behind me. I sat down on my couch and looked up at him, but he was looking around. "Kristalina, why didn't you tell me?" he said angrily. "I'm sorry. I don't go around telling people that I'm the leader of a gang." I wouldn't call it just a gang, Kristalina. It's feared across the US. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that you went there tonight without any help. Well, that's how I like it, I said, moving to take my shoe off. All I'm saying is that you should have told me. What were you doing there anyway? I followed you because your brother kind of told me, he said, scratching the back of his neck. Well, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I thought you wouldn't accept me, I said, looking away at the cave walls. Why wouldn't I accept you? Kristalina, you mean everything to me, he said, hugging me. Let's go, he added, carrying me to the door. Can we stay here? I kinda don't want to leave. Okay, love, he said, walking us over to the bed. I changed into an oversized shirt and lay down, and he did the same. Whose shirt are you wearing? He asked. It's just a shirt, Lucasian. But if you must know, I got it at the store. Suddenly, I felt the bed dip. He hugged me, then kissed me on the cheek, his finger making circles on my stomach. With that, I fell asleep thinking of him and only him. The last thing I heard was, beautiful voice. Chapter 8. I fell asleep after Kristalina. I can't believe that she thought I wasn't going to accept her. I would do anything for her, and I don't care if I hurt anyone in the process. I woke up to Kristalina struggling. She was moving close to me, and it felt good, but we had to stop. Love, I think you should stop if you don't want to stay here in this cave, I said. Fine, but can you let me go so I can get dressed? She said. What if I don't want to let you go? I whispered in her ear. Well, I guess you have to keep me here in the cave, she said in a teasing voice. This girl will be the death of me. I loosened my hold around her, and she got up, teasing me as she walked away. I got up, put on my clothes, then sat back on the bed to wait until she was finished. Lucasian, I'm ready now, she said, walking to the cave exit. I walked up to her and moved the vines to the side so she could walk past, but she didn't budge. She took my hand and looked at me with a smile, a real, genuine smile. We walked back to the car and I drove her home. The ride was silent but comfortable. I looked over at Kristalina, but she was looking out the window. We got to the house in 10 minutes and saw Roxana's car in the driveway. Are you coming in? She asked. No, but I'll see you soon. And keep her out of trouble, I said, looking at Roxana's car. Okay, see you later, she said, getting out of the car, but I stopped her. What, no kiss? I asked her. My wolf wanted so badly to kiss those soft lips. No, because I don't kiss my enemies, she said with a wink, then closed the door. I sat in the car replaying what just happened. I drove off, called Lucas, and told him to get brandy and meet me at my house. Yes, I said my house. Since I graduated, I've gotten my own place. The pack house is too crowded. I got out of my car and opened the front door to see Lucas, Laimus, and Brandy in the living room, eating nachos and watching TV. Nice to see you guys making yourselves at home, I said. They looked up at me, then back at the TV. What's this? I asked. Some of Kristalina's best fighting videos, Brandy answered. Didn't she say no one is to watch those? No, she said no one watch the home videos or look at the photos, Brandy answered again. Anyways, what are we going to do about this prank war? I said, watching the video. You would be surprised that even though Kristalina is so tiny, she could fight. I say that we surrender because she's going to win regardless. You never know what she is going to pull. Like that time I enlarged one of her childhood pictures and put it in the pack house. She was so mad she took one of mine and made 4 gigantic posters. She placed one in school, one in the pack house, one at our grocery store, and the last she pasted on our house. Everyone laughed at me for 2 months, Brandy said, reliving the memory while we all laughed at him. Well, I'm not backing down, mate or not, I said, not knowing what I got myself into. Chapter 9. I walked into my house to find Roxana in the living room watching TV. She turned around and smiled at me. See, I got to know Roxana at dinner yesterday. I thought that she would be a brat, but you can't judge a book by its cover. Hey, Roxana. Hey, Kristalina. Your mom let me in, she said. No worries, you're practically family, I said. I pulled out my phone and texted Talia. Me, get over here now. Talia, what's up? Is something wrong? Me, yes, prank war. Talia. Aye, Captain. Roxana and I were sitting in the kitchen talking when we heard sirens. What the hell? I got up to see what had happened, only to find Talia in her car, smiling this girl. Hey, guys, I brought sound effects, she said, holding a remote, then turned it to the sound of a dying cat. Hey, Talia, get in the house so that we can plan. And this is Lucasian's sister, Roxana, I said. We spent hours poring over plans and buying the supplies we needed. First, we'll start off basic, then we'll move up, and whenever the guys think we're finished, we strike again. This is going to be so fun. Right now, Talia, Roxana, and I are at the pool relaxing. The phone rang and I ran inside and answered it. Oh my God, cries. Thank the goddess, Brandy said frantically. Brandy, what's wrong? What happened? I asked. He broke his arm, cries. He was fixing some stuff, he said. Who, Brandy? Tell me. I shouted. Lucasian. Where are you guys? I asked. At his house, cries. Hurry up, he said, giving me his address. Okay, I'm on my way, I said, hanging up. I ran outside and told the girls. We all hurried and changed, but stopped when Roxana stopped. Talia and I looked at her, but she was focused on something. Then she looked relieved, then mad. Those idiots. It's just a prank. Lucas left his mental block down, she said. Okay, let's go teach them a lesson, I said as we headed out the door. But I went back to my room to get the bags we'd bought earlier. I walked back downstairs and headed to my car. We got to Lucasian's house 30 minutes later. We got out of the car with our bags, walked over to their vehicles, and started decorating. I got out the glitter, bedazzled feathers, streamers, and Hello Kitty posters. We got done in 10 minutes, and the boys didn't even smell that we were there, so we got back to the cars and drove to Talia's house. While driving, I called Brandy back, told him my car was dead, and hung up. I pulled up to Talia's house, and then my phone went off. Kristalina, you're going to pay. And we surrender. You're evil. You messed with my baby, shouted Brandy. Well, there go my brilliant pranks. Love, you're going to pay, Lucasian said angrily. Whatever. That's what you guys get. And with that, I hung up my phone. The girls and I laughed all evening and sent out the photos to the packs. It was time for me to go home, so I told the girls goodbye and made my way home listening to music. I got home and went to the kitchen, got some cherries, and made my way to my room. I stopped at my room, and my wolf was buzzing, telling me to go in, but I ignored her. When I went in, that's when I smelled his scent. Hey, babe. Long time no see, I said, popping a cherry in my mouth. But he just looked at me, then started to walk like I was his prey. You ready for your punishment, love? He said in a tone I didn't recognize. Then his eyes turned black. Oh no. My back hit the wall, and I prayed it was a dream, but then I heard laughter. I opened my eyes to see Lucasian on the floor, dying with laughter. He got up, and I walked toward him, threw the cherries at him, and slapped him across his face. He stopped laughing and looked at me with black eyes, but I didn't care. Don't you dare hit me again, he said in his alpha tone. Was he serious? That tone doesn't work on me. No, don't you ever do that to me again, I said, then went over to my closet. Could you turn around so I could change? I asked angrily. No, he said. Why is that? I asked. Because you're mine, he said with a smirk. I swear he is moody or something. Fine, I'll just go to the bathroom, I mumbled. Before I could go to the bathroom, he pinned me against the wall and smelled my hair. No, you will not. You'll change right here, he whispered in my ear. Fine, I said, raising my voice. I started to strip my clothes off with him watching every move I made. I was in my pink lace underwear and a black bra. My wolf was happy that our mate was looking at our bodies. He came up to me and looked into my eyes, then at my lips, then back in my eyes. He moved closer, and I held my breath. His lips touched mine, and it was the most wonderful feeling I had ever felt. Sparks were flying everywhere. He brought me to the bed and lay me down so I was on my back, then he came on top of me. The kiss got out of control in seconds. He brought his hand to my waist and held me like I was melting. He peppered kisses down my face, then my chest, and then my stomach. Then he went back up to my lips. I moaned into his mouth, and he growled and deepened the kiss. I wrapped my legs around his waist and flipped him over so I was on top. I kissed him deeply. He flipped me over again and kissed my neck, the same spot he would mark me and make me his. It drove me crazy that one man could do so much to my body. Lucasian, I moaned his name. I arched my back and bit my lip. God, what this man does to me. Love, we need to stop or else I'm going to lose control, he said, and with that, he backed away from me. Lucasian, it's okay, I said, out of breath, walking up to him. But I was frozen. What the hell? Crystalina, I'm sorry. Your blood is intoxicating and I didn't feed, he said. It's okay. You can go feed, but come back please, I said. Okay, I'll be back, he said as he unfroze me, kissed me, then walked out to the balcony. I had forgotten that Lucasian is the prince of the supernatural, so he has more than one creature in him. I'll have to ask him about that. Chapter 10. Lucasian POV. I jumped off the balcony and ran into the forest to hunt. I can't believe I was so foolish as not to feed earlier today. I wouldn't forgive myself if I had bitten Crystalina, but her blood is so intoxicating. I ran, stopped in the middle of the forest, and spotted a deer by a lake. In one swift motion, I tackled it, bit into its neck, and satisfied my thirst. It would quench my thirst, but not for long. I ran back to Crystalina's house, jumped up to the balcony, and walked into her room. She was asleep on her bed, so I undressed silently, not wanting to wake her. I got into bed with her and hugged her from behind. She snuggled up next to me, and I kissed her cheek. I fell asleep knowing that my mate was in my arms. Crystalina POV. I fell asleep waiting for Lucasian to get back from his hunting. I felt the bed dip in the night, but I knew it was Lucasian because of his scent. I woke up to a strong arm around my waist. I started to panic, but memories from last night filled my head, and I sighed in relief. Oh my. Can he let me go? A girl has to use the bathroom. I started wiggling in his arms, but his grip just tightened, if that was even possible. Okay, time to craft a plan. I screamed. Lucasian flew off the bed and grabbed a shoe, looking around the room for danger. Really? A shoe? Not even a bat? I took this as the time to run to the bathroom, and so I did. I got in the bathroom, washed my hands, and brushed my teeth. I walked back to my room and found Lucasian on the bed staring at me with an intense look in his eyes. See something you like? I asked with a smirk. Nope. I've seen better, he said, then picked up his phone that was on the nightstand. Okay, that just killed my mood. My wolf whimpered, knowing that our mate had been with someone else. Okay, the girl he's talking about is going to regret that. Let me at her, my wolf said angrily in my head. You can have her since she's not here, you fool, I said. Hey, if I'm a fool, you are too, seeing that we are the same person, she replied, then blocked me out. I walked to my closet, grabbed some clothes, then walked back into the bathroom, ignoring him. I undressed and got in the shower, washing my hair with my favorite shampoo and scrubbing my body clean. I can't believe I thought he wasn't with anyone before he met me. I turned off the shower, stepped out, and wrapped a towel around my body. I changed into shorts, a black tee with a feather on it, and beige flats. After that, I blow-dried my hair, curled it, and applied makeup. I walked out to find Lucasian gone. Well, I thought he was anyway, until I heard him downstairs. I grabbed my purse, phone, keys, and a weapon and headed downstairs, texting Talia on the way. You never know when something could happen. I went into the kitchen to find Lucasian, Filio, Brandy, and Dad talking and laughing. They stopped when I came in. I went to the pantry and grabbed a granola bar. Good morning, I said to everyone, then turned to leave. But before I could leave, Brandy asked, Where are you going? Chadwick's, I replied. Then I heard a growl and mentally rolled my eyes. Okay, tell him hey and to call me, he replied. All right, bro. Later, I said, then turned, but my face connected with a solid wall. You're not going, Lucasian growled. Don't growl at me, and you don't control me. I can when you're my mate. Why don't you find a better mate? His eyes widened, and so did everyone else's in the room. He finally figured it out. I stepped around him and headed out the front door. A single tear slipped out of my eye, and I broke down crying. I got in the car, wiped my face, and drove away. I can't believe we just fought. My wolf is telling me to go back to him, but I can't. I need to clear my head. I texted Talia and Chadwick to say I wasn't coming to hang out. I pulled up to the forest and headed to my cave. Chapter 11. It's been 2 weeks since Kristalina and I fought, and I can't stand not being next to her, looking at her beautiful face and smelling her intoxicating scent. Man, I'm whipped. I can't find her anywhere. It's like she disappeared off the earth. Her family is looking for her, but to no avail, and my wolf is getting restless, blaming me for her disappearance. I also found out that tomorrow is her birthday. I can't lose her. I've been waiting for her for over 200 years. I was in my living room pacing when my nose started bleeding. I wiped my nose and wondered why. We need her, we need our mate, my wolf said in a panic. But how do we find her? I stopped pacing and thought, wow, she is too smart for her own good. I thought this as I grabbed my keys. She's not getting away this time, I told myself while going to my car.
Chapter 12. 2 weeks. 2 long weeks since I saw Luke Asian, the day we fought. My wolf has been getting on my nerves, telling me to go to him. We always fight, and then she blocks me out. I have been in my cave shooting targets and painting, but every time I paint, the only thing I see is blue eyes and blonde hair. I was listening to music when I saw red dripping onto my white shorts. I started to panic because my body had never done that before. We need him, you idiot, said Diamant. I know, but I'm scared. Of losing him and of this nosebleed? A tear fell from my eye, and I quickly wiped it away. The reason for your nose bleeding is because the two of you have been apart for so long, not talking to each other. The bond is weakening, like being rejected, so he feels the same thing you're feeling right now, she said, then blocked me out. I got up and put on my blue cardigan and my boots. I felt so weak that I could hardly walk. I missed him, and only he could make it go away. Yeah, but he can't do that now, can he? Oh, now you want to appear again. Quiet and help me so I can be with him, I snapped at her. I walked to the cave entrance to see the only person I wanted to see. Luke Asian. I looked over his face, then into his eyes, which held sadness, regret, and longing, but they quickly turned to happiness, joy, relief, and affection. I looked down to see I was only wearing a bandeau top under my cardigan and my white shorts. I looked back at his face, and we held each other's gaze a while longer, but I took the first step. He eventually closed the space between us. Kristalina, I'm sorry, I cut him off before he could finish because right now, I didn't care about what he was going to say. No, Luke Asian, not now, He cut me off. But I cut him off by kissing him. The kiss was only meant to be a peck, but it found its way to my neck as he pulled me into him. My wolf purred at the contact with our mate. Traitor. The kiss was passionate and sweet. Luke Asian put his hands on my hips, and I moaned, putting my arms around his neck. He bit my lip, asking for access. He grabbed my waist, and I gasped. He saw this as an opportunity and took it, kissing me deeply. He lifted me up. He kissed my neck, the spot where he would mark me, and I sighed. I knew if we didn't stop, things would escalate. As if on cue, Luke Asian slowly put me down, and we broke apart, panting for breath. Love, as much as I want to continue, we have to stop, he said, putting his forehead on mine. I could see that he was struggling with his wolf. I nodded, then turned around and walked back to the bed to get my phone and my bag. I walked back to Luke Asian, and we walked from my cave hand in hand in comfortable silence, but my wolf was telling me to get closer to him right here, right now. If I'm eager, so are you, Diamant growled. Yeah, whatever, I said, then tuned her out. We got back to his car in no time. Luke Asian opened my door, and I got in, saying thank you. He got in and drove off. The car was silent, so, being the fun person I am, I started singing every song that came on. There was one song I was in love with that came on, and I closed my eyes and started singing. Give me love like her. 'Cause lately I've been waking up alone. Paint splattered teardrops on my shirt. Told you I'd let them go. And that I'll fight my corner. Maybe tonight I'll call ya. After my blood turns into alcohol. No, I wanna hold ya. Give a little time to me or burn this out. We'll play hide and seek to turn this around. All I want is the taste that your lips allow. My, oh give me love. The song ended, and I took a deep breath because anytime I sing that song, I think of Lucas and me. Wow. I guess I forgot that I was still in the car. I glanced over at Lucas, who had an expression I couldn't read. He smiled at me and took my hand in his. I looked down to see that our hands fit perfectly together. The car stopped, and Lucas got out, then opened my door for me. I smiled at him and said thank you. I turned around to walk into the house, but I was pulled back. Lucas hugged me and inhaled my scent, kissing me at the same time. I hugged him back and kissed his cheek, and he shivered at the contact. I pulled away and smiled at him. Kristalina, will you go out with me? He asked. Yes, Lucas, I answered. He smiled with a glint I had never seen in his eyes before. I wondered if he thought I was going to say no. Okay, love, be ready at 7:30, he said, smiling so hard I thought his face was going to crack. What should I wear? Something casual, he said, then kissed me one last time before he went back to his car, gave me a wink, and drove off. Oh my gosh, I have a date. I sprinted up to my house and opened the door to see my family with Roxana and Talia in the living room watching a movie, which was Mama. We always watch movies together once a week. I said hey to them, but they didn't even notice me, so I shrugged and went upstairs.
Chapter 13. Okay, so here I am freaking out. I have a date in less than 5 hours. That is very little time for me to get ready. Natalie came barging into my room like a madwoman, and Roxana was right behind her. Okay, why the hell are you running like someone in a scary movie? I asked. Because we just finished watching a movie and your brother is scaring us with that damn mask from Halloween, said Talia, who was trying to catch her breath. Okay, so I have a major problem. I have a date and I have nothing to wear and now I'm freaking out for no reason, I said in a panic. Okay, so you have a date and have nothing to wear? Why don't you wear that red skater dress with pumps and some cute accessories, she said, then sat down on my bed. Wow, that was easy. I went to my closet, took out the outfit that she suggested, and put it on the bed. I then went into the bathroom and did my routine. I came back out in half an hour to see my friends watching SpongeBob SquarePants. Well, what can I say? I'm a good influence. Talia, can one of you guys do my hair? I asked, looking in the mirror. Both girls came over to me. Roxana grabbed the curling wand, and Talia grabbed the makeup. They both got to work. I tried looking in the mirror, but they blocked me, then put a cover over it. Okay, are you ready to see our masterpiece? Roxana said. She took the cover off the mirror, and I was speechless. I looked beautiful. I looked closer and saw that my eyes were green, but they turned back to brown, which was weird because they never did that before. I turned back to see that my two best friends were back to the cartoons. I looked at the clock on the wall and saw that it was 6 p.m. and Lucas would be here soon. I quickly changed into my dress, then put on my accessories and finally my pumps. I looked in the mirror at the person looking back at me. To say I was beautiful was an understatement. Just then, the doorbell rang. Talia and Roxana got up from watching their cartoon to be nosy. I walked downstairs to see Lucas and Brandy talking, but stopped while I was halfway down the stairs. Wow, you look beautiful, sis, Brandy said with a smile. Thanks. I looked at Lucas because he hadn't said anything. He was taking in what I was wearing, then a smile made its way onto his face. I made my way down the last stair to see Lucas walking towards me. You look beautiful, love, he said, then kissed my cheek. Thank you. You don't look too bad yourself, I said with a smirk. Are you ready to go? Yeah. I turned and said goodbye to everyone, then made my way to the door Lucasian had opened. He closed the front door and took my hand in his. "You really do look beautiful," he said, and I blushed and hid away from him. He grabbed my hand and led me to the car. He went to the driver's side, got in, and we drove off. During the ride, it was quiet and comfortable. Now and then, he would look over at me, then look back at the road. "So, are you going to tell me where we are going?" "No, because it's a surprise," he said, smirking, and I pouted. "Love, stop doing that." "It's pure torture," he said without looking at me. I sighed and looked out the window. "We're here," Lucasian said, then opened his door, and I was doing the same. "I swear, if you touch that door, you'll regret it." I sighed and waited until he came around to open my door. I got out of the car and saw that we were at a restaurant, but not just any restaurant, my favorite one. He took my hand in his and led me inside. A girl about 2 years older than me was at the desk. When she saw us, well, more like Lucasian, she perked up and smiled. She was being so obvious. "Hello, how can I help you?" she said, smiling at Lucasian, who was busy ignoring her. "Yes, reservation for 2, please," Lucasian said with a forced smile. "Right this way," the girl said, showing us to the table. She left, and Lucasian took the pleasure of pulling out my chair for me before he sat down. I was looking at the menu when a guy of Lucasian's age came up to the table. "Hello, I'm Jeffrey and I will be serving you," he said, but he was looking at me the entire time. "Thanks, Jeffrey," I said sweetly, and Lucasian growled lowly. After we finished eating, Jeffrey came back with our check and was flirting with me. Lucasian snapped at him and quickly paid at the cashier. He also got Jeffrey fired. So now we were at a park sitting on a bench because he couldn't drive angry. "Lucasian, are you still mad?" I asked quietly. He pulled me into his chest and nuzzled my neck. I put my arms around his neck and kissed his forehead, then his lips. He caught my lips with his and deepened the kiss. Instantly, I knew he was calm. "Not anymore," he said against my lips. He got up and walked to the car with me in his arms. He put me in the car and then went to the other side. "Okay, love, let's go home," he said after he got in the car, then sped off. Well, this is a date I will never forget. Chapter 14. We pulled up to Lucasian's house, and I was confused. I knew it was his house because of my prank. I turned to look at him, but he was smiling at me. "When you said home, you meant your house, didn't you?" I questioned. "Yep," he said, popping the P. He turned and opened the door. "Would you like to come in?" he asked, smiling. I smiled at him and nodded my head. He grabbed my hand and led me into the living room, which was all white. "Lucasian?" "Yes, love. Thank you." "For," he asked, looking confused. "For tonight." "I had a good time," I said, smiling up at him. "You're welcome," he said, smiling down at me. "And I'm sorry," I said, looking down. He tilted my head so that I was looking at him, then kissed me. The kiss was passionate and held so much meaning that I questioned myself. Why is he with me? He can have anyone he wants, yet he's still here. Because he loves us, cries, and we love him, even if you can't see it, Diamond said. "When did you get so knowledgeable?" I asked her. I hadn't heard her since that day at the cave. "Well, someone has to be in this relationship," she said sarcastically, then disappeared. I mentally laughed. Lucasian stopped kissing me, then looked into my eyes. I hadn't noticed his eyes were so blue. He looked so attractive in his shirt. Lucasian inhaled sharply, and his eyes widened before snapping to me. "Love, you're going through heat," he said, then picked me up and sped out of the room. He came to the door, opened it, and threw me on the bed. He used his vampire speed to appear in front of me. He looked at me intensely. To say I was scared was an understatement. I was terrified. He kissed me, tangling his hand in my hair. I moaned into his mouth, and he wrapped my legs around his waist. He kissed my neck, trailing kisses down my skin, and I took that time to catch my breath. He laid me on the bed. "Don't ever hide away from me," he growled. He captured my lips, kissing me again. I could kiss this man all day. He pulled away, then asked, "Love, can you give me permission to mark you as mine?" "Yes," I answered without hesitation. He started kissing the spot where he would mark me, and I sighed. He moved to my lips, kissed me, before moving back to my neck. I felt his fangs extend and pierce my skin. He went deep, but I didn't care because I was in bliss. He pulled away, licked his mark, and then kissed my lips. And then he said 3 words that shocked me. "I love you," he said, then placed a kiss on my lips. "I love you too, Lucasian." And I really meant it because I loved him with all my heart. "Sleep, love," he said, taking off his clothes. I climbed under the sheets. I felt the bed dip and arms hugged my waist. I sighed and tucked my head into his chest. "Good night, Lucasian," I said sleepily. "Good night, love," he said, placing a kiss on my temple, and then darkness took over. I woke up to hands wrapped around me, and I couldn't breathe. I knew it was Lucasian because of the tingles in my body. I wiggled so he would let me go, but I had no such luck. "Lucasian?" I called, but he didn't answer. "Lucasian?" Again, no answer. "Lucasian?" I screamed. He covered his ears and bolted out of bed, looking for danger. Finally, I could breathe. Way to burst my eardrum, he grumbled, going back to sleep while pulling me down with him. "Lucasian, I have to go meet Chadwick." I pulled away from him only to be pulled back. He growled and flipped me so that I was on the bottom. I looked into his eyes and saw they were almost black, meaning his wolf was taking over. "You're not going anywhere, love," he growled, placing kisses on my neck where his mark was. I flipped him over, straddling him. "Honey, Chadwick is gay, and he does the tech stuff at the warehouse," I said, getting off him and running to the bathroom. He lay there with shock on his face, and I winked at him before closing the door. Good, that's what his jealousy gets him. I undressed, then jumped into the shower. Looking around, I saw body wash, so I took some and washed my body. 15 minutes later, I got out of the shower, looking around for clothes, forgetting that I wasn't home. I took a towel from the cabinet and wrapped it around my body. I walked out of the bathroom to find Lucasian staring at the TV, but I think he was distracted, staring into space. Walking over to the bed, I jumped on him. "Lucasian, can I have something to wear?" I asked innocently, earning a growl from him. He looked down to see I was only wrapped in the towel, and his eyes darkened. "Don't tempt me, love," he said, looking up at me. I bent down and kissed him on the lips, and his hands found their way around my waist. "I have to go, Lucasian," I said, looking at him. Lifting me, he carried me to his closet, put me down, and searched for something to wear. He finally handed me a small t-shirt and basketball shorts. I ran to the bathroom and changed. I walked out to see Lucasian wearing a tank top and basketball shorts. I had to stop myself from staring, so I looked away, walking to the door. But before I could touch the handle, pain erupted all over my body. "Lucasian!" I screamed. He turned around to see me clutching the door for life. He was by my side in a flash, carrying me to the bed. "Lucasian, it hurts. Please make it stop," I sobbed. He held on to me, whispering sweet nothings into my ear. I knew it wasn't the heat because my wolf had blocked the pain. "Cries, you're changing, that's why you're in pain," said Diamond. "Into what?" I asked, sobbing. "You have to wait and see for yourself. Our mother has some explaining to do," she said, disappearing in my mind. "Lucasian, take me home, please." Those were the last words I said before darkness took over. Chapter 15. I quickly picked up Crystalina from the bed and sped to the car. I couldn't believe this was happening. 1 minute she was fine, and the next she was unconscious. I hoped her parents could tell me what was happening to her. I put her in the car, got in, and sped off to her house. When I got to her house, her mother was already outside. I parked the car and got Crystalina out. I walked up to her mom and told her what happened. She told me to put Crystalina in her room. I walked in to see Roxana, Brandy, Lucas, and Talia watching SpongeBob in the living room. "Really?" I brought my mate to her room, placed her on the bed, then walked out to see her mom coming in with a vial in hand. "What's that?" I asked her. "We need to talk after I'm done with this," she said, walking into Crystalina's room. I walked into the kitchen to wait for her. 15 minutes later, she came in and sighed. "Let's go out back," she said, walking to the back door. She sat down on the chair, looking at the water, not saying a word. She sighed again and looked at me. "Do you know what I am?" she asked. I looked at her confused. "You're a werewolf," I answered. "No, but I will explain to you, and please do not interrupt me," she said, and I nodded. "My name is Suzy Denali, the second born of my siblings, and I am a royal like you, but for the South." I gasped. She was a royal like me, but I am royalty for the North. Billy is my second mate, like you are to my daughter. The second mate bond is stronger than the first, no matter what. My supernatural nature includes mermaid, wolf, vampire, witch, and fairy. Every generation, a supernatural element is added by the goddesses. So you and Crystalina will inherit them with extra powers, but with them comes greed from others. People would do anything to get them, just as they did with me. There are going to be challenges, and both of you will need each other to get past them. She got up. "Go to your mate. She needs you," she said, then left. I sat down, still processing everything she had told me. I got up and went back to Crystalina's room. She looked so peaceful sleeping. I wondered what her new supernatural side would be. I sat down next to her, brushing her hair out of her face. It was so dark. "Wait, am I dead? I'm too young to die." "They told us that you were a lot to handle." And I guess they weren't lying, voices said from around me. The darkness faded, and 5 supernatural beings stood in front of me. They all looked so beautiful, but somehow I knew that they were linked to me. The one in pink stood out from the group and spoke. "Hello, darling. I am Serenite, and I am your mermaid. I will guide you along with your power from your mermaid side," she said, smiling at me. "Hello," I said to all of them. They all introduced themselves to me. "Hi, I'm Valerie, and I am your vampire." "I can't wait to teach you," she said. I looked at her to see that she was wearing a fitted black dress. "Hello, I'm Helena, and I am your fairy," she said. She wore a purple glitter shirt and shorts. "Hi, Crystalina, I'm Serafina, your witch." She was dressed in a long green dress. "Hi, Crystalina," a smirking Diamond said. I gaped at her. She looked beautiful in a gold, long, flowing dress. "Hey, Diamond, you look so beautiful," I said, and she smiled. 2 lights appeared, one dark, one light. The dark one came up to me. "Hello, Crystalina, I'm Demonia, your demon," she said with an Irish accent. The thing is, they all have accents. "Hello, Crystalina, I'm Angeline, your Angeline." Really? Did she just say that? "Hello, it's nice to meet you," I said, trying to be polite. "Well, cries, it's time to go back to that mate of ours," Diamond said. Yeah, later." I turned around to leave, but nothing happened. How do I get back? I blushed from embarrassment, and they all laughed at me. "Honey, just think of this as a dream and open your eyes," Angeline said. I did what she told me. I woke to find Lucasian asleep on my couch. I got off the bed and went to the bathroom, took a shower because I was sweaty, and brushed my teeth. In 15 minutes, I was out of the shower. Darn, I forgot to bring clothes. I tiptoed out of the bathroom to see Lucasian still sleeping. I just wanted to be close to him right now. I walked over to my closet and picked out some jeans and a green crop top with black flats. I walked over to my drawer, picked out undergarments, and got dressed. After getting dressed, I saw that Lucasian was still sleeping, so I jumped onto the bed. He opened his eyes and stared at me wide-eyed. "Love, what happened to your hair and eyes?" he asked. I looked at him confused. He picked me up and took me over to the mirror. I gasped. My hair was longer and had highlights, and my eyes were rainbow-colored. I guess being all supernatural comes with changes. I turned to look at him, but gasped. His eyes were the same color. "Lucasian, your eyes," I said. "I know. They are talking to me now," he said in a huskier voice. So, for 15 minutes, he stood still as a brick until he came back. "So, what are your supernatural sides?" he asked. "I'm a wolf, vampire, mermaid, fairy, witch, demon, and Angeline," I answered, and he gasped. "I am a wolf, vampire, warlock, merman, Angeline, and demon," he said. Just then, my stomach growled. "Come on, love, let's put some food in that monster of yours," he said, laughing. He kissed me, and we walked hand in hand to the kitchen. Chapter 16. We got down to the kitchen and saw Talia trying to cook. The scene was so funny that I took out my phone and snapped a few photos. Lucasian was trying not to laugh, which was an epic fail. Talia, why are you wrestling with the stove? I asked, and she turned around, blushing a bright red. The little stove burnt me, she said, showing me the burn. Is she serious? It was so small that you needed a microscope to see it. She walked out of the kitchen mumbling words I wouldn't want to repeat. I sighed and went around the island to clean up. After I was done, I felt hungry, so I made breakfast for everyone while Lucasian sat and watched me. I went to the refrigerator, pulled out bacon and eggs, then went to the cabinet and got the flour and the rest of the ingredients I needed. Now and then, someone new came into the kitchen, and being me, I ignored them. Hey man, what's up? Brandy said to Lucasian. Morning, sis, he said to me. I gestured at him while putting the cake and the last batch of cookies in the oven. Oh no, cries, are you hungry? He asked, and I growled at him. I'll take that as a yes, he said again. Why is that bad? Lucasian asked. If he only knew. She only cooks like this when she is really, really hungry, mad, or when she wants something. And I think it's the first one. And seeing that she hasn't eaten in like days, Brandy answered. He knows me so well. Both of them sat quietly watching me. The oven dinged, and I took the cake and cookies out. I started bringing out everything: waffles, pancakes, biscuits and gravy, bacon, eggs, and more. By the time I was done, everyone went wide-eyed. I heard the doorbell, so I went to open it. Hey, honey, how are you? Lucasian's mom asked, and I shrugged. Lucasian hugged me from behind and told his parents that I was a little grumpy. Would you like to stay for breakfast? I asked, and they nodded. I walked back to the dining room to see Brandy sneaking to take my cookies. Brandy, if you touch my sweets, I'll put a bullet in you. I shouted, and he went stiff. Everyone in the kitchen looked at me in shock, and I gave them an apologetic smile. We sat down and ate in silence. Well, I ate in silence, and everyone was looking at me. Kristalina, take a breath. The food is not going anywhere, love, Lucasian said, looking at me. Don't worry, we're used to it, Brandy and Talia said at the same time. Both looked at each other and started laughing. Well, that wasn't weird at all. Well, I haven't eaten in days, so I guess I'm supposed to be hungry, I said, then rolled my eyes. At that moment, I didn't feel like eating anymore, or maybe it was because I felt so sick. I got up and started walking out to the pool, but, of course, someone had to ask where I was going. I'm going outside for some air, I said, then left the room. I went outside and lay on one of the tanning chairs. After about 10 minutes, someone sat down and put my feet in their lap. I didn't open my eyes to know who it was, but from the sparks I felt, I knew. We stayed like that for a while, with him massaging my feet and me trying not to sigh at how good it felt. Love, are you okay? Lucasian said through the mind link, and I sighed in response. He growled and pulled me into his lap. He drew circles on my exposed waist while nibbling on my ear. Lucasian, you have to stop, I stuttered. If only he knew what he does to me. Trust me, I know what I do to you, he whispered in my ear. I gasped and playfully hit his arm. He laughed and kissed my forehead. We talked for a minute, then Talia and Roxana came out smiling. Hey, cries, do you want to go shopping? Talia said, smiling. Really? Now? My stomach is killing me, and I'm feeling terrible. Yeah, sure. Let me grab my stuff, I said, trying to get up. You aren't going anywhere, love. You're unwell, and I don't want anyone touching what's mine, he whispered, and I couldn't keep myself from shivering. Lucasian, nothing will happen, and I was cut off before I could finish. You can come too, Lucasian. All the guys are going, Talia said, smiling at me little sneak. Lucasian nodded, and I went up to my bedroom. I changed into high-waisted shorts and a neon pink muscle tee that said, too bad, with pink and white Jordans. Lucasian mind-linked me, saying that he would meet us there. So now I'm driving with Talia and Liamus. Roxana is driving with my brother. Thinking about it, those two are always together. Oh well. I went downstairs to see that everyone was ready to go. Darn, girl, if I didn't have Liamus here, I would switch teams, Talia said, winking at me, and I laughed at her. Anyways, let's go. We have things to buy, she said, walking to the door. So, how are you, Liamus? I asked with a smile. We were sitting in Liamus's car, and I was bored, so why not? Good. How are you? He asked. I'm good. Just so you know, if you hurt my friend, I will end you, I said. He looked at me, and I smiled. I won't. And if you hurt Lucasian, same goes for you, he said. I won't, but if he hurts me, I'm going to put a bullet in him, I said. I like you. You're cool, he said, smiling at me while Talia sat there laughing. Right back at you. But can you keep your eyes on the road? I'm too pretty and young to die, I said, smiling back at him. Talia turned on the radio, and a rap song came on, and we started singing. Me. I wasn't born last night. I know these girls ain't right. But you were blowing up her phone last night. But she ain't have her ringer nor her ring on last night. Oh. Man, that's nerve. Why give a girl your heart when she'd rather have a purse? Why give a girl an inch when she'd rather have 9? You know how the game goes. She is mine by halftime, I'm the best. Oh. Man, that's nerve. You all about her and she's all about hers. Talia. When a rich man wants ya, and your man can't do nothing for ya. These girls ain't loyal. These girls ain't loyal. And Talia, I just got rich. Took a broke girl. I can make a broke girl rich. But I don't mess with broke girls. We pulled up to the mall before the song was over, but I saw that Liamus was glad because the little guy was smiling when we pulled in. I got out of the car only to hear a growl behind me, and I froze. Arms went around my waist, and I instantly knew who it was. What the hell are you wearing? Lucasian asked angrily. It's called clothes, I said, then turned to look at him. He was in a white muscle tee, khaki cargos, and black Jordans. Oh God, I could see abs. Why must he torture me? Kristalina, half of your body is out, he growled again. I know for a fact they're not that short and nothing will happen because you're here. So get over it and let's go, I said, getting angry. I started walking only to be pulled back. You're getting punished when we get home, he whispered in my ear, and I shivered. Well, lucky thing you don't live with me then, I said with a smirk. No, but you live with me, he said, then walked off. This guy. I jogged to catch up to him to ask him what he meant, but I knew this was not the time. We held hands and walked into the mall together, only to hear wolf whistles for the guys. He growled and held onto my hand, almost breaking my fingers. This is why you should have worn more clothing, he whispered. Yeah, but guess what? I asked him. What? All this is for you, I said, walking next to Talia, swaying my hips. You're going to be the death of me, love, Lucasian growled. Chapter 17. Miss, are you all right? A guy in the store asked, looking worried at me. Yeah, I'm fine, I said, trying to calm my heart rate. I guess you're wondering what happened. Well, it started out as a beautiful sunny day. After I walked away from Lucasian, Talia, and Roxana, I left the guys to walk around. We all got bored after about 3 hours and decided to visit the arcade. It was fun. Talia won 4 games, Roxana won 3, and I won 5. We were walking around when I spotted a wishing fountain. Let's go make a wish, I said as we all walked over, looking for coins in our purses. Roxana made her wish, and I made my wish after her. Talia was still looking for a coin. I felt something on my back, so I brushed it off. I felt it again and pushed it, thinking it was one of those fake plants. I turned around when I heard a splash and looked down to see Talia drenched in water. Oh no, did I do that? Talia got out and came over to me. Trust me, you did not want to see her face. You better run, cries, because I'm going to get you, she said, reaching for me, but I was long gone. There is no way I'm going to let Talia catch me. She is crazy, and when she is mad, it's worse. And that is how I ended up here in a men's store in the underwear section. Well, at least she couldn't find me. Kristalina, love, why are you hiding? I looked up to see Lucasian and the guys staring at me. In the underwear section of a men's store, Brandy chimed in. Hee. Funny story, I said, laughing nervously, then looked at my feet. Okay, let's hear it, Lucasian said. Yeah, let's hear it. Everyone turned and looked at a wet Talia, then laughed. They took pictures of her and posted them on social media. How did I know? My phone got the notification. Love, that was not nice, Lucasian said, trying not to laugh. It wasn't my fault. Something was on my back, I said, then pouted. I'm sorry, Talia. Will you forgive me? Fine. Sure. Whatever. But I want a batch of those cookies you made. I still need to dry off. I'll see you guys in a little while, she said, walking out of the store with Laimus by her side. Roxana and my brother were left behind them. I wondered if they were mates. Hey, babe, how are you? I said, looking up at Lucasian through my lashes. Don't act innocent now, love, he said, smiling down at me. Do you want to leave? I nodded. I mind-linked Brandy and told him that Lucasian and I were leaving and to tell the others. Lucasian held my hand while we walked out of the store. We were almost out of the mall when a guy bumped into me. I looked up and saw Ostino Reyes, my ex-mate. Lucasian growled and hugged me close to him. Ostino had a girl on his arm, as if she were his life source. Watch where you're going, said the girl. Ostino still hadn't taken his eyes off me. Says the girl who uses guys like tissues, I said, glaring at her. Nice to see you, Kristalina. Is this your boyfriend? Ostino said, smirking. I wish I felt the same, but oh well. And this is not my boyfriend. He's my mate, Lucasian, I said, smirking back at him as his smirk dropped. Aren't you going to introduce me? No, you're not that important, I said, rolling my eyes. Babe, can we go now? You promised to buy me that new bracelet, the girl whined. See you later, cries. And you will be mine again, he whispered the last part in my ear. Lucasian growled and struck him in the face. Stay away from her or I'll end you, Lucasian said in his demon voice, and Ostino stiffened. We walked to the car and got in. I could see that Lucasian was still mad, so I kissed him. He didn't respond at first, so I climbed onto his lap. He grabbed my waist and sighed. I wrapped my hands around his neck and played with his hair. He kissed me deeply, pulling me closer. Better? I asked against his lips. No. I want to be with you completely, he growled out, and I gasped as he said those words. I looked into his eyes, and they were black, which meant one of his creatures was taking over. I kissed him again, and he crushed his lips onto mine. I pulled away and sighed. Lucasian, we can't do this here in a parking lot, I whispered in his ear. He started the car, and I moved off his lap. Well, I tried. What are you doing, he said. Moving so you can drive, I said in a matter-of-fact tone. You're staying right here, so get comfy, love, he said with a wicked smirk on his face. On the way to Lucasian's house, we stopped at a coffee shop. I haven't eaten for about 5 hours. Yep, that's how long we've been at the mall. Lucasian got out of the car and came to open my door, but I was already at the door to the coffee shop. I heard chuckling and turned to see Lucasian with amusement in his eyes. Love, how can you be hungry when you had that humongous breakfast? He said in disbelief. That was in the morning and it's like 4:30, so yeah, I said, opening the door. The place had a homey feel and smelled of French vanilla and cinnamon. It had balloons and streamers as decorations. People were singing on stage, so there must be karaoke. We found a seat at a table, and a girl came to take our orders. She was flirting with Lucasian, even touching his shoulder. His face wore disgust. Teach her a lesson right now, Demonia growled in my head. I agree. The little girl needs to keep her hands to herself, Diamant added, and the others agreed. I'm sure there is a less violent way to solve this, Angeline said in a calm voice. Why am I not surprised? Always the Angeline. The girl finally left, and Lucasian sighed in relief. We sat in silence, watching the performances until our orders came. Here you go. The girl handed Lucasian his latte and slammed mine on the table, then turned back to Lucasian and winked at him. She gave him a napkin, and from what I could tell, there was a number on it. Do you have something in your eye? Because it looks like your eyes are having a seizure, I said, then sipped my latte. Lucasian was trying not to laugh. The girl huffed and walked away, and I got up. Where are you going? He asked curiously. To the restroom. I lied. I pretended to go to the restroom, then turned toward the stage. I arrived and chose the song I wanted to sing. Nothing really stood out until the one I chose. Babe, this one is for you, I mind-linked Lucasian. He almost choked when he saw me, and I winked at him and started singing. We don't have to worry about nothing. 'Cause we got the fire, and we're burning one hell of a something. They gonna see us from outer space. Light it up like we're the stars of the human race. When the light started out, they don't know what they heard. Strike the match, play it loud, giving love to the world. We'll be raising our hands, shining up to the sky. 'Cause we got the fire. Yeah, we got the fire. And we gonna let it burn. Lucasian somehow made his way up to the stage when I was singing and watched every word I said. He didn't take his eyes off me once. People clapped and shouted when I was finished. I walked off stage only to have 2 big arms wrap around me. Love, that was beautiful, but I think your voice changed from the last time you sang, he said, kissing me on my lips. That was weird, but I understood what he was talking about. We walked back to the table, grabbed our stuff, and left for the car. As I was walking out, my hand began to glow pink. Lucasian saw it, held my hand, and put me in the car. Then he got in and gasped. Love, you're glowing pink, he said, shocked. What the hell? I looked at my skin and, true enough, I was glowing pink. Cool. Do any of you guys know what's going on? I asked my supernatural sides. Yes, you're getting your mermaid powers, Sarah Knight said excitedly. Is my body going to glow every time I get my powers? I asked. Yes, but your Angeline and Demon are more powerful, and you'll see why, Sarah Knight said, then disappeared. I looked over at Lucasian and saw that he was staring at me with wide eyes and his mouth slightly open. Your eyes are pink too, he said, handing me his phone so I could look. Again, cool. Let's go home. Close your mouth or you'll catch flies, I smirked at him. Well, this ought to be an interesting night. Chapter 18. Imperfection is beauty, madness is genius, and it's better to be absolutely ridiculous than absolutely boring. Marilyn Monroe. Crystalina POV. So babe, what did you mean when you said, but you live with me? Because I'm a little confused, I asked, looking around after I got out of the car. And why are we not at your house? Well, aren't we full of questions today? He said, smiling down at me. Ugh, I want to smack him. We're going to be living here with me at the Royal Pack House because 1, you're a royal, 2, you're my Luna, and 3, because I said so. He replied with a cocky smirk. You know you could just ask me to move in with you. Oh my gosh, did you go in my underwear drawer? I asked in horror. You have nothing to hide, love. And plus, I think lace is my favorite, he said with a wink, and I playfully hit him on his arm. So we're going to be staying here? Well, I like your place better, more privacy. I smirked at him, and he growled. I know you do, love, but we have to do this for the sake of the pack, he said. 5 guys came running out of the house, playing around. They all had basketball shorts on, and a soccer ball was in one of the guys' hands. They spotted us and made their way over. There were 2 that looked alike, so I'm assuming they're twins. They had blue eyes and blonde hair, but one was dirty blonde, and the other was sun-bleached. The other 3 guys. One had blonde hair and hazel eyes, another had brown hair and light green eyes, and the last one had dirty blonde hair with blue-green eyes. And they were all tall and toned with muscles. Who's the beautiful lady? Asked the twins, kissing my hand while I blushed, making Lucasian growl, jealous guy. This is Crystalina, my mate and your future Luna, Lucasian said, glaring at the twins. Be nice, I mind-linked him. I'm Coleman and this is, he was cut off. Cotton. Nice to meet you, his twin Cotton said. They were adorable, but something in their eyes said mischief. I like it. My name is Adamus. Behind me is Scotty and Pero. Nice to meet you, Adamus said, introducing the guys behind him. Scotty was the one with green eyes, and Pero was the one with hazel eyes. Nice to meet you guys, I said, smiling at them, and they smiled back. Well, I'll leave you to do whatever you guys were doing, Lucasian said, walking with me into the house. They were friendly. Yeah, they are. They're my best friends. Adamus is 3rd in command, Pero is his brother, and Scotty is Liamus's brother, he informed me. I walked inside the pack house, and it was huge. I mean, a freaking palace. Lucasian showed me around. In all, there were over 150 bedrooms, 50 bathrooms, 2 kitchens, a game room, a ballroom, a library, an auditorium for meetings, an indoor gym and pool, and more. He was showing me our room on the 4th floor. "Love, this is our room," he said, opening the door. The room was huge with a modern look. It was painted blue and gray, with matching blue and gray furniture. I looked around and saw a large walk-in closet with our clothes. I walked over to another door and opened it to find the bathroom. It was so beautiful. Everything was made of glass, with a bath, shower, and a jacuzzi in the corner where the mirror was. The bathroom was cream and blue. I exited the bathroom and saw Lucasian at a balcony looking out. It was getting dark, and you could see the sunset. The sky was yellow, pink, and blue. Lucasian took my hand and hugged me from behind, placing his chin on my head. I sighed and leaned into his hard but soft chest. We stayed like this until the sun went down. "Love, you're glowing again," Lucasian said. "Yeah, I'm getting my witch powers." "The color I glow represents my supernatural side," I told him, then walked into the closet and took one of Lucasian's shirts and some undergarments. I walked to the bathroom, closed the door, stripped off my clothes, and stepped into the shower. I was washing my hair when I heard the bathroom door open, then the shower door. Lucasian came in and started washing my body while he stared into my eyes. I watched him until he was done, and he did the same for me. My body soon started to glow purple, which means I'm getting fairy powers. We hopped out of the shower, and he passed me a towel. He kissed me on my forehead and walked out of the bathroom. I dried myself, but my hair was still wet. "Ugh. Use your elements," said Diamant. I raised my hand and dried my hair with the guidance of serenite. My hair came out bouncy and shiny with highlights. I put on my shirt, Lucasian's shirt, and my undergarments and walked out to see Lucasian on our bed with his eyes closed. The thing is, he was glowing, rainbow. It was so beautiful. I watched in awe with my mouth open. This lasted for more than 30 minutes. Forget this, I want to sleep. I went to the other side of the bed, climbed on, and lay down. I started to fall asleep when an arm went around my waist. I snuggled into his chest and closed my eyes. "You know it's rude to stare," I stated without opening my eyes. "Not when you're looking at your beautiful mate," he said, and I opened my eyes. "You're glowing rainbow and your body is hot," he said. "I guess I'm getting all my powers now." "How long was I glowing for?" I asked. "For like 3 hours, and the heat for like 2, he said, moving my hair out of my face. "You're finished getting your powers now," cries, "and the heat is from your Angeline and Demon because they are extra. You will need to train and master these powers. You will get mental training from all of us and you'll dear physical. Lucasian has already got his power. That's why he was glowing. Remember to train and practice, and you need to keep out of harm's way, and so does Lucasian. Now goodbye, darling, and have fun," said Serafina. I looked over at Lucasian to see him looking at me in awe. He looked different. His hair was now light blonde. His eyes were light blue, and his skin was flawless. I got off the bed and went into the bathroom. I gasped when I saw my reflection in the mirror. I have long, dark brown hair with highlights. I was taller, my figure had developed, my legs were longer, and my skin was flawless, no blemishes, bumps, or spots. What caught my attention was my eyes, white with black specks. "What the heck? Honey, your eyes change color according to your mood and what you wear," said Diamant. "Well, that's good to know." Seeing that I was about to freak out, I wrapped my arms around my waist. I turned to see Lucasian looking at me with love and affection in his eyes. He looked at my body, checking me out, then pulled me close and smashed his lips against mine. We started making out until I smelled smoke. I ran out of the room in that direction with Lucasian on my heels. We reached it in a couple of seconds because of our vampire speed. We walked into the kitchen to see Cotton at the stove trying to put out a fire and Coleman and Pero fighting with the blender. Scotty was on the island taking pictures and Adamus was nowhere in sight. "Everyone stop," shouted Lucasian, and I shivered. His voice was filled with authority and power. Everyone froze in their spots and looked at Lucasian and me, then gasped. I used my vampire speed to clean up and put out the fire. The food Cotton was cooking ended up in the garbage because the boy can't cook to save his life. When I was finished, I went to Lucasian's side and hugged his waist. Everyone stared, mouths hanging open. What were you guys doing? I asked. I was making breakfast, which you rudely threw away. Cotton sobered up and answered. Last time I checked, breakfast isn't supposed to be purple and blue, I stated. Well, I was hungry and those guys over there were fighting over a freaking blender, he said, pouting. He's so adorable. Honey, why don't you guys get ready for school and I'll make breakfast? I said. It was 6:30, so I had plenty of time to make breakfast. They nodded and took off upstairs. Lucasian came and kissed my cheek. Do you need help? He asked. Yeah, you can mix the pancake batter and I'll do the rest, I answered, and we got to work. In 30 minutes, I had blueberry and regular pancakes, bacon, eggs, and I baked muffins. Oh my gosh, what smells so good? Cotton asked. It smells like heaven and looks like it too, said Coleman, and the rest nodded in response. I brought the food to the table, and they sat down and ate. Lucasian and I watched in awe as they devoured the food in less than 5 minutes, and trust me, it was a lot of food. Do you want me to clean up? Because you have to get to school, Lucasian asked, and I nodded and left the kitchen. I walked into our closet and chose what to wear, a leather skater skirt, a white shirt tucked in, black platform-heeled boots, and a white Michael Kors bag. I went to the bathroom and took a shower. I dried my hair with my Air Element, then curled it and put on some lip gloss. I looked in the mirror and saw that my eyes were silver and black, speckled with white. I got my phone and took a picture. I walked downstairs to see the guys looking at a phone and laughing. What's so funny? I said, making them look up in surprise. Their eyes turned from shock to appreciation in seconds, and Lucasian growled at them, causing them to sober up. Babe, can I talk to you? Asked Lucasian, and I nodded. We went out of the room. Do you have a room that has a security code? Yes, why? Because you forgot to pack my babies, I said, a little mad. Your babies? He asked, confused. Yes, you know, my bullets, weapons, you know, those things. Oh, I can get those for you if you want. Duh, I'm not gonna leave them at my parents'. Plus, I have something new I want to test, I said with a mischievous smile. What do you want to test? Arrows, I answered. Arrows? Yep, I said, popping the P. I walked out of the room. Aren't you guys going to school? I asked the guys. Yeah, but we go late and it's our first day, Cotton answered, and the guys nodded. Okay then. You have 2 minutes to get your stuff and get to school. And if I don't see you guys there, you will be sorry. I shouted in my demon voice. Everyone stood there in shock, but then scattered. Later, babe, I said to Lucasian, then walked off. Oh no you don't. I heard before he was in front of me. He smashed his lips on mine, asking for entrance, and I gave in. He tasted like blueberry and maple. His hands made their way to my waist, then he pulled me closer. He buried his nose in my neck and kissed his mark. I moaned and put my hands around his neck. We pulled apart, and he gave me one last peck. I walked out the door, swaying my hips, and he growled. That's what you get. Well, time for school. Chapter 19. The guys ended up arriving at school at the same time I did. Students in the parking lot stopped and stared at them, having never seen 5 guys get out of a car before. The guys looked at them with envy, and the girls looked at them like they were the last pair of shoes on sale. The guys were loving the attention, their smirks betraying it. Cries, we need help finding the office, Cotton said, looking around. Didn't look like it a few seconds ago, I said, smiling at them. Come on, let's go. Look what we have here. The loser and her lapdog, a high-pitched voice said. I turned around and saw Trinity. You know, the one who was with Ostino at the mall. Look, it's the gold-digging girl, I said, mimicking her voice. Listen, you need to back off because I run this school, not you, she said in her high-pitched voice. Yeah, whatever, I said, walking off. Cries, what was that? Cotton said, glancing back at her. Oh, that's just Trinity. With the same drama every day, I said, annoyed. Okay guys, there is the office. I'm going to my locker, I said, walking off in the other direction. I reached my locker and saw Talia and Roxana walking toward me. They had coffee and something else in their hands. Hey, cries. Hey, babe, Talia and Roxana said at the same time. Hey, guys, I said, opening my locker and taking out my books for my first through fourth periods. We started walking until we were in front of our class. I walked in to see the twins. They looked at me for help because Trinity was rubbing all up on Coleman and Cotton had a look of disgust on his face. I cleared my throat and she turned to me, then turned back around. I cleared my throat again, but louder this time. Do you have something in your throat? She turned around and asked. No, but you do, I said, and she looked confused. What? I don't. Talia cut her off. For the love of God. You are talking too much. Darn, and I thought blondes were the oblivious ones, she said with a sigh. You little, Trinity said, then tried to hit her. Talia grabbed her hand and pushed her onto the table. I would feel bad for her, but she had it coming. Talia, stop, I said in my alpha voice. She got off Trinity and walked out of the class, everyone watching her. Ostino walked in, saw Trinity on the floor, and ran to her aid. Wow, I guess we're not having a teacher today, a guy said, then fist pumped the air. Whenever a teacher doesn't show up for 20 minutes, the class just leaves and hangs out wherever. Love, what's the password for the door? Lucasian asked via mind link. For the door, it's 42901. And the booby traps are 52906, I said. Okay, got it. And I heard what happened. What? How the hell did you hear so fast? I asked, shocked. Watch your language. And Laimus told me, he stated. Well, bye. I quickly put my mental block up, then left the class. I went to find the guys when I felt someone touch my shoulder. And guess who it was? Ostino. Why are you touching me? I growled out through my teeth. Hate you too, he replied with a smirk. You know, usually when a girl is not into you, you move on. Just a suggestion. But you are my mate. No, I was your mate, but you rejected me, remember? A look of regret flashed across his face, then he covered it. You will be mine again. I promise you that, he growled out. And I will end you. I promise you that. And I always keep my promise, I said, then walked to the library. Thank goodness this day is over. After my encounter with Ostino, my day was pretty dull. School ended about 2 minutes ago, and I'm on my way to my car until I heard someone calling me. What do you need, Cotton? A ride home, he asked. I'm not even gonna ask. Fine, get in. The ride was interestingly quiet, or maybe because I wasn't paying attention. I pulled up to the pack house, and Lucasian was already outside. Really? I ignored him and went into the house. Why, might you ask? Because he smelled like cheap perfume. Got my supernatural sides growling and giving me a headache. I walked into my room, undressed, and went into the shower. An hour later, I stepped out of the shower and wrapped a towel around my body. I dried my hair, then put it in a fishtail braid on the side. I walked out to see Lucasian on the bed, looking at the wall. How interesting. I ignored him and went into the closet and took out dark skinny jeans, a black v-neck, black pumps with studs, and a black leather jacket. I came out and grabbed my phone. Where are you going? He asked, walking over to me. Where is that room I asked you for? Downstairs in that basement, he answered, then tried to hug me, but I put my shield up. He growled in frustration. What the hell, Crystalina? He asked, but I was already out the door. The basement was cold, and they kept weapons in one of the rooms. I walked up to the fourth door and opened it. Anyone could come down here and take my stuff. I quickly set up the security system, then went in and closed the door. My weapons and inventions were neatly arranged on displays or tables. I took out the stuff that I would use for my arrows and got to work. I finished in 3 hours. All I had to do was test it to see if it did what I wanted. I grabbed my bow and arrows and walked to the underground area that holds the rogues. It was dark and the stench was foul. Hey, cries, a voice so familiar said. Hey, Scotty. What's up? I should be asking you that, he said, eyeing my bow. Do you have any rogues that you don't want? I asked, glancing around. Yeah, he said, then walked off. I felt someone behind me, but I knew who it was. Then more people came in, but stopped when they saw me, I guess. Here you go, cries. Scotty came back with a man who looked to be in his 40s. I didn't have to know what he did. I searched his mind to find out, and it wasn't good. The guy harmed women for his own enjoyment. So, what are you doing with the arrow? I heard from behind me. Shooting him, I stated. Why not a gun? I heard from Scotty. Can a gun do this? I asked, then took my arrow and put it in the bow. I took a deep breath. I let the arrow go, and it hit the man's chest, and the body turned into ash. I heard gasps from behind me. I turned around to see Lucasian and the guys with Laimus and Talia, who had a smirk on her face, and the others with their mouths on the floor. I turned and walked out of the room, but before I did, Lucasian stepped in front of me. You might want to wash off the scent that was on you before one of those arrows ends up in you, I said, then stepped around him, not even looking at his reaction. I went to the warehouse to check on the guys, and they were doing fine. We laughed, drank beer, and ate. I love those guys because they're like family to me. I told them that I had to go because it was late, like 12:30 late. When I got home, I walked up to my room and found Lucasian, angry, sitting on the couch. Where have you been? He asked through his teeth. Yep, definitely mad. Out, I said, then started to take my clothes off, but stopped and looked at him. Listen and listen well. You are mine and I will not be disrespect. Disrespect? I'm not the one who smelled like another girl, Lucasian, I said, getting angry. You didn't let me explain, he yelled. He was growing angry, and I could see his eyes shifting color. You know what? I can't do this. I'll be in my office, he said, then stormed out of the room. What just happened? I ran out of the room only to stop in my tracks, seeing some girl rubbing all up on Lucasian. Looks like they were having a conversation, a heated one. I smelled the air and caught the same scent on Lucasian. I guess neither of them saw me, so I cleared my throat, and they both looked at me. Well, she glared at me, and Lucasian started to explain, but the girl jumped in. She was pretty but not stunning, and she had on very revealing clothes. Who the hell are you? She asked. I turned around to see who she was talking to because she sure wasn't talking to me. I'm talking to you. Okay, maybe she was talking to me. I just looked at Lucasian. More like a death glare. Are you stupid? I'm talking to you, she said again. I have a 4.0 GPA, and I'm sure my I.Q is higher than yours. IQ, she whispered, but I heard and so did Lucasian. At least pick a girl that has a brain, I said, then rolled my eyes. I have a brain, you stupid, she said. Yeah, and so did the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. I rolled my eyes again, and Lucasian was trying not to laugh. You, she said, then charged at me. I pulled out my weapon and shot her in the hand, and she fell. Thank God, her voice was so annoying. And you have a lot of explaining to do, I said, then turned to go back into the room. Why isn't she moving, cries? She's paralyzed. Take the bullet out, and then she'll start moving in a day or two. I wish it was an arrow, though. I walked into the room. I changed my clothes, climbed into bed, and fell asleep with a smile on my face. Chapter 20. When I woke up, I felt refreshed, but my mind was still on the nonsense that had happened last night. I got off my bed, went to the bathroom, and got ready. I showered, put my hair in a messy bun, then went into the room and got dressed. I picked baggy distressed jeans, a white crop top, a leather jacket, and black heels. I did my makeup, then looked in the mirror. My stomach was showing, so you could see my piercing and some of my tribal tattoo. I went downstairs and saw the guys moping around. What's wrong, guys? I asked because they looked so sad, and Cotton looked as if he were about to cry. There's no food, he said, pouting, and I burst out laughing. It was funny. What do you mean? I asked, trying to sober up. We can't cook, so we can't eat, he said, pointing to the other guys. Before I came here, who cooked for you all? When we first met you, that was our first day here. In England, we had a cook, Pero answered. I nodded my head and walked into the kitchen. I grabbed the muffin and biscuit mix because I didn't have time to make them from scratch. I mixed the ingredients and put the batter in the oven. I went on to make the gravy for the biscuits. I was sitting on the stool, waiting for the oven to heat, listening to music through my headphones, when a certain someone pulled them away. Lucasian. What do you want, Lucasian? I want to explain. Okay, you have 7 minutes, I said, looking at the timer on the oven. Okay. The scent that was on me yesterday was Taylorine's. She is one of our pack members, and she just got here from England. She has been stalking me, and when I saw her yesterday, she hugged me. I didn't think anything of it, so I hugged her back. And when you saw us in the hall last night, I was telling her that we cannot be more than friends, because I found my mate, he explained. Just then, the timer went off. I walked over to the stove and took out the muffins and biscuits. I walked into the dining room to see the guys already sitting around the table. They were eager. I put everything on the table and sat down next to Talia. What are you doing here? Moved in yesterday. Tata, she said in a flat tone. Girl, this isn't a party trick, I said, and everyone laughed. Anyway, we have to go to school, so hurry up, I said, then walked back upstairs to my room to grab my stuff. When I got there, Lucasian was already there with his head in his hands. Lucasian, what's wrong? I asked worriedly. I may be mad at him right now, but he is my mate. Nothing. I was just thinking, he said, then got up and walked up to me. I'm sorry, cries. I'm so sorry, he said, looking like he was about to cry. I had never seen him like this, and it pained me to see him so vulnerable. It's okay, Lucasian. I forgive you, I said, hugging him. I had to leave, but I didn't want to. You're going to be late for school, he mumbled in my hair. Okay, fine, I said, walking out. Before I made it to the door, he gently pulled me by my wrist, turned me around, and kissed me. I sighed and gave in because I didn't want to fight anymore. I broke the kiss and looked into his bright blue eyes, almost neon. Okay, I have to go, I said, then walked downstairs. I guess the guys had already left because I saw no one when I went into the kitchen, so I walked outside to my car. Cries, wait up. I turned around to see Talia running towards me. I got in the car and waited until she got in. What's up? I asked as I drove off. Nothing. Laimus isn't going to be at school anymore, so I had to get a ride for today, she explained, and I nodded my head. How are you guys anyway? You smell different, I said, glancing at her. I could see her face turn bright red. Everything is fine, and we made it, she said, blushing. Okay, as long as you're happy. I pulled up to the parking lot. We stepped out together and walked into the school. This is so boring. Why are we coming to school to learn things we won't use in the future? I was sitting in math class, trying to take a nap, when I felt someone trying to get through my mental block. What do you want? I shouted internally. I can't even take a proper nap. Luna, we kind of have a problem, Pero told me. Spit it out. Rogues, he said. I jumped out of my seat and dashed for the door, but the teacher stepped in front of me, blocking my way. You better get out of my way, I warned him. He shook and stepped aside. I ran down the hallway and out of school. Pero, how many are there? A lot. Where's Lucasian? Fighting, he said, then blocked me. I ran with my vampire speed and was there in 1 minute. I've been training, so now my powers are more advanced. I walked around the house and went into the basement, where my weapons were. I grabbed everything I needed and ran to the clearing. There was chaos everywhere. I spotted Lucasian at the far end of the field. I started neutralizing every rogue I saw in sight. I heard a scream in the forest and went to check. I hid my scent and climbed a nearby tree. A group of rogues was capturing a group of children. I jumped out of the tree and landed in front of them. Hey, look, Jay. Maybe we can take this one with us too, one of the guys said. I don't think so, I said. And why is that? He asked, smirking. This is why, I said, and took him down. The other rogues looked shocked, but they covered it. Anyone else? I asked, and they charged at me. I took down the targets efficiently. You guys need to get back to the house, I said, then cast a shield on them. Thank you, Luna, they said in sync, then ran off. I ran back to the clearing and saw Lucasian holding his side, still fighting. I ran up to the rogue and neutralized him, finishing any others that I saw. I knew some got away, but we had to focus on the pack. Lucasian, you're going to be okay, I said, then turned to the fighters. Okay, men, I want you all back at the pack house. Help the injured to the doctor, and I will be there. I teleported Lucasian to our room. He was pale. I took off his shirt and healed the wound. In seconds, he was up. How do you feel? I asked, scanning him over. I feel okay, he said, then hugged me. Okay, I need to help heal the injured at the pack doctor, I said, standing up. Okay, I'll come with you, he said, and we sped out of the room. After I healed everyone, we held a pack meeting to make sure everyone was all right. Now I was making dinner. I felt hands around my waist and immediately knew they were Lucasians. Thank you, he whispered in my ear. For? I asked. For protecting the pack, me, and yourself. And for healing the fighters. You don't have to thank me. I'll always protect our pack, I said, smiling up at him. Sorry to interrupt. Cries, Mr. Prince gave me this. It's for you, Talia said, handing me a paper. I read the paper and squealed, then looked at Talia and squealed again. I looked at the paper, then looked up at Lucasian and squealed again. I knew I was acting childish, but I was so happy. What does it say, love? Lucasian asked curiously. It says that I've completed my credits and completed my senior year. The only thing I have to do is graduate with everyone else, I said, smiling down at the paper. No more school. No more math. That's good, love. Now you can stay home with me, he said with a smirk. Yeah, whatever. So Talia, what about you? I asked. I'm finishing next week, she said, smiling, and I hugged her. Okay, dinner is ready, so help me set the table, I said, bringing the food into the dining room. After dinner, the boys washed the dishes, and Talia and I were in the theater watching scary movies. I felt a tap on my shoulder when the lady in the film got scared and screamed. So, guess what I did? I screamed too. What do you want, Coleman? I asked, holding my chest. Can I join you? He asked. Is that all you want? You almost gave me a heart attack, I mumbled. He sat down on the sofa and took my popcorn. Hey, I said you can watch the movie, not eat my snacks too. I grabbed the popcorn out of his hand. Love, what did I say about that attitude? I shivered as I heard Lucasian's voice. He came and lifted me onto his lap. I don't remember, I said, glaring at Coleman, who was smirking. I used my fairy power and switched his clothes, so he was wearing a ridiculous outfit with makeup. Everyone was paying attention to the movie, so no one noticed it at first. I gotta say, I love your outfit, Coleman, but pink isn't your color, I said. Coleman looked down at his clothes, did a double take, and looked down again. I snapped a few photos, then put my phone away. Dude, I didn't know you dressed like that, Adamus said, and everyone started laughing. Crystalina, you better run. As soon as he said that, I took off running because he looked like he was about to get me. For the rest of the night, I hid in my lab because it's the only place he can't get in. I might as well do some experiments. Chapter 21. It's been 2 weeks since the rogue attack, and everything has calmed down. I sat in the living room with Talia and Roxana, watching the originals. I love that show. Klaus is attractive, and his accent makes him even better. I swear those two are going to kill each other over that girl, Roxana said, shaking her head. Man, it's like another Vampire Diaries. That is crazy, Talia said, shaking her head. Love, where are you? Lucasian asked through our link. I'm in the living room with the girls, I replied. Come to my office, he said. I walked to his office. When I opened the door, Lucasian pinned me to the wall. His eyes darkened with desire, and his hands traveled my body. He kissed my mark, and I sighed while he growled, his hands going to my waist. We kissed until I couldn't feel my lips. I pulled away and rested my head on his chest. There's a pack coming here for training because they have been attacked, and they lost a lot of members. I tried to decline, but the council didn't approve, he said, looking at me. Let me guess. The pack is the Moonshine Pack, I said, and he nodded. Well, they can be here, but if any one of them messes with me, I'm ending them. No questions asked, I said, starting to walk to the door. Where are you going? He was now in front of me. To the mall, and no, you're not going to stop me, I said, pushing him out of the way. I was mad that those people were coming, and something was bound to happen. I walked downstairs to find the girls still watching the originals. "Hey, you guys want to go to the mall?" I asked, and they nodded. We're now at the mall, and I was getting more tattoos. Honestly, I think I'm addicted. I was getting a tribal tattoo that started under my breast and ran to my hip, and another on my right shoulder that said, "I carry your heart in vines." When I was finished, I met the girls at the food court. "Oh, let me see." Talia jumped up in excitement. "When we go home." "Now let's go. We've been here for 6 hours," I said, walking out of the mall. We got in my car and I drove home. We were singing as we made our way back to the pack house, but stopped when we saw cars in the driveway. We got out of the car and Coleman came running up to me. "Hey, Coleman, what's up?" I asked. "Lucas said to tell you that the moonshine pack was here early," he said, then backed up. "Am I that scary?" "Well, I can see that, but why tell me that?" I asked, and he shrugged, but I knew he wasn't telling me something. I made my way to the backyard and walked up to Lucasian. He was talking to the other pack, but stopped and introduced me. "This is my Luna, Crystalina," he said, then wrapped his hand around my waist. I heard a growl, but I chose to ignore it. "She is your Luna?" This week, pathetic girl, Brittany, one of the girls in Austino's pack, said, "Honey, how am I weak when I have the most feared gang in Cali, when I am one of the best fighters here, and when I can easily break your neck with the snap of a finger?" I growled and I saw fear in her eyes, but she quickly masked it. "You can't do anything to me because my pack won't let that happen," she screamed. "Wow, she's annoying." "We'll see," I said, then reached for my weapon and shot her in the leg. She fell and everyone gasped and backed up. Austino walked up to me pissed. "You're going to regret that," he said, steaming. I'm sure you could see smoke coming out of his ears. "No, I'm not. I regret not ending you the first chance I had. I regret a lot of things, but this is not one of them," I said, walking up to him and pointing at Brittany on the ground. "Did you just threaten me?" he asked. "Is this boy stupid or something?" "No, I didn't, but then again I did promise you that I will." "Just stay away from me, don't cause any trouble, and keep your pack in line, then we wouldn't have any trouble and maybe you won't die," I said, then put my weapon back in my boots and walked into the house. I need chocolate. I swear it's the best stress reliever. When I got to the kitchen, I took out the extra-large chocolate chunk cookie I had made that morning. Thank God I'm a werewolf, and I work out because I sure would gain like 50 pounds just looking at it. I sat on the counter, got ready to take a bite, when Cotton, Coleman, Talia, Roxana, and Lucasian came in and stared at me, then at my cookie. I took the first bite, and their mouths fell open. "I want a giant cookie," Cotton whined. I swear he is the baby of the group. I did make like 3 in the morning. "No need to whine," I mumbled, but they heard me because they were all racing to get a cookie. "So, are you going to share?" I heard Lucasian ask. That would be a big fat no," I said, then paid attention to my cookie. But I couldn't, because he was giving me those eyes. I sighed, broke my cookie in half, and gave it to him. "Well, way to enjoy my cookie." "This is so good," Cotton moaned, and the guys agreed with him. I was finished with my cookie, so I headed to my room to take a shower. I could feel Lucasian following behind me, but I continued. I opened our bedroom door and started stripping out of my clothes. By the time I reached the bathroom door, I was only in my underwear. Next thing I know, I'm being pinned to the wall by a shirtless Lucasian. He kissed my neck, still holding me with my back to him. He turned me around and looked down at my body. When he saw my tattoo, his eyes swirled black and blue. He traced his finger against it, and I shivered at the feeling. He continued roaming my body until he was on my leg. He lifted me up. He looked into my eyes and kissed me roughly. He tried to gain access, but I denied, and he bit my lip. I moaned, and he deepened the kiss. I felt him walking, then felt water on my body. Without breaking the kiss, he put me down, then pulled away. He started washing my body without breaking eye contact, and I did the same to him when he was finished. He kissed me one more time, then stepped out of the shower. I stepped out right after him, and he wrapped a towel around me. We walked out of the bathroom dry. I went to the closet, took one of his shirts and my underwear, and put them on while he was already in bed, watching me. I walked over to the bed and straddled him, but he rolled over, so I was on the bottom. He kissed me and lay back, then pulled me into his chest. "Good night, love." He kissed me on my forehead. "Good night, Lucasian," I said sleepily, then fell asleep. Chapter 22. It's been 3 days since the Moonshine Pack came to stay with us, and I've been praying that they can go back to their pack soon. They have been eating our food, sleeping in our beds, and they are incredibly lazy. Today is no different. I was walking down the hall and saw things scattered on the floor, like clothes and food crumbs. I walked past the game room and saw some teens playing. Inside, the room looked like a dumpster with chip bags on the floor, pizza on the table, and a box across the room. There was even trash left out in the open. Okay, enough is enough. "Hey, guys," I said, trying to get their attention, but no one moved or even blinked. I sighed. I grabbed a heavy book and slammed it onto the table. Bang. Everyone in the room scattered to the other side, against the wall. Wimps. All right, I need this place clean now, and I want to see it spotless when I come back in here. Now, get to work. I used my alpha voice, and every one of them started to clean like they were possessed. I walked out of the room and headed to the kitchen to make dinner since some people were at training, work, or just being lazy. "You've got to be kidding me," I growled. The kitchen was a mess, and the lazy group was sitting in it. "Get up and get out of the kitchen before I throw one of you out." I growled in my demon voice, and everyone ran out. I sighed and locked the kitchen doors and the blinds. I used my witch power to clean up the mess, put everything in its place, and clean the floor. I opened the blinds, but kept the door locked so that I wouldn't get interrupted. I started cooking 5 different pasta dishes and making desserts and drinks, all this for these people. I heard the door open and close, but I didn't look at who came in because I was putting the batter in the oven. I felt arms go around my waist and sparks erupted. I sighed and enjoyed the feeling. "Hey, sweetheart," Lucasian said while kissing my neck. "Hey," I answered. "Are we practicing after dinner?" he asked. Lucasian and I have been training with our powers. I was already good at fighting since Dad, Brandy, and our uncle taught us martial arts, karate, and some other skills. "Yeah, if you want to," I said, then sighed. For the rest of the time until dinner was ready, we talked. "Help me with these?" I asked, and he took the food into the dining room. Both packs ate dinner together, so the table was bigger. When I opened the kitchen door, I could see people in their chairs, and guess what? They were the only people from Ostino's pack. They were all sweating and smelled terrible. They were ruining my food with their scent. "You all better go get washed up and get away from the table." "No!" I shouted, and they got up. I put the food on the table and waited for them to wash up. I turned to see Lucasian smiling at me. "What?" I asked, confused. "Nothing. You handled that really well. I know since they got here it hasn't been easy. And I'm really proud that you're handling this and that you haven't hurt anyone," he said, smiling at me, which made his eyes shine. "Thanks, and I haven't hurt anyone yet." I went over to him and sat in his lap. I heard feet coming down the stairs, so I got off Lucasian's lap and sat in my chair. Everyone sat down and started eating when an annoying voice cut through the room. "What is this?" I ordered a salad, Brittany screeched, and the table looked at her, then to me. I swear I'm going to lose it one day. Since the day she got here, she has been ungrateful. At every dinner, she would ask for a salad. It's not like it's going to change anything. "I don't care that you ordered a salad. You can make it yourself," I said, then continued eating. "I can't eat this. It has too many calories and it tastes bad," she said, folding her arms across her chest. "Again, I don't care, and my food doesn't taste bad, or else they wouldn't be eating it," I said, pointing around the table. "And you need to eat more. You look unhealthy." Do you know who I am?" She got up, slamming her hand down on the table. "That's Queen Bee, and I know exactly who you are." "An ungrateful little brat," I said, glaring at her, and she glared back. I didn't feel like eating anymore, so I got up, brought my plate to the kitchen, washed it, and then walked to my lab. "What are you doing here?" I saw Ostino trying to break into my lab. "Nothing. Wrong room," he said, like I was stupid. I don't care. Only pack members are allowed down here, and no one goes in that room, I said, pointing to the lab. Like I said, wrong room, the guy said, smirking. If I see you down here again, I will break your limbs. Now run along, I said, folding my arms to my chest. He walked off, but not before he smirked at me. I entered my code and went to the lab to grab the gear I needed for training. Lucasian would be down in a moment, so I had to hurry. And speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Hey, are you ready to go? He came over and took the bag out of my hand. Yeah, I said, then held his hand and teleported to where we practice. It was in the middle of the forest where no one could see or hear us. I also put up a shield just in case. So, what are we doing today? I asked, stretching. Since we worked on discovering some new powers yesterday, why don't we see what we can do with them? By the way, nice form, he said with a wink, and I glared at him playfully. Yesterday, I learned that I can create, manipulate the mind, and cloak people. They are mental abilities, so I have to work harder. We finished later than expected. We were both sweating from the extra combat training and the laps. We gathered our stuff and teleported back home. I took a shower and went to sleep, and Lucasian joined me. What a long day. Chapter 23. It's been a week, and both packs have been getting along well, except for Brittany and me. Shocker. We've been training nonstop, and Ostino's pack still needs more training. Lucasian and I have our private training as well. We still haven't made it, and the tension is driving me crazy. I was brought out of my thoughts by the bathroom door opening. Lucasian came out in only a towel. Yep, you heard me. Towel, meaning six-pack and an attractive V-line, water dripping down his face. I guess he saw me staring because he was smirking at me. Like what you see, darling, he asked, drying his hair. I didn't even answer him because if I said no, everyone would know that's a lie, and if I said yes, his ego would be inflated times 100. I sighed, got off the bed, and walked over to the bathroom. But before I could make it, he grabbed me by my waist and pulled me into his chest, nuzzling my neck. I sighed as he started kissing my neck, his hand trailing down to my thigh and then my waist. His lips left my neck and were on mine. Sparks flew, and I heard him groan. Just then, we heard knocking on our door, and I let out a frustrated growl. He placed a kiss on my forehead and went to the door where Lucas stood. Morning, guys. Lucasian, we have a meeting in 15 minutes. He saw us and walked off. What's with him? I asked Lucasian as he watched Lucas leave. He's all right, just not a morning person, he told me while he went to the closet to get dressed. I walked into the bathroom and took a long shower. I washed my hair with my strawberry shampoo and washed my body with pink chiffon from Bath & Body Works. I got out of the shower and blow-dried my hair, then walked out of the bathroom to my closet. I picked my clothes out and laid them on the bed, then I put on my undergarments. Talia came bursting through the door, looking around the room. What are you looking for? I asked as she caught her breath. I have something to tell you and am really scared, she said, biting her lip. Okay, what is it? I asked her curiously. She was cut off by running into the bathroom. I heard the toilet flush and she came out looking pale. I tilted my head to the side and studied her, then my eyes widened. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be an auntie. I squealed, jumping around. I stopped when I saw the look on her face. Talia, honey, what's wrong? I asked as we walked over to the couch. I wrapped my arm around her as I saw tears falling down her cheek. What if he doesn't want kids? What if he rejects me? I don't think I can live without him, she sniffled. Listen to me. He will be happy that you're carrying his pup, and anyone will be happy to be with you, I said. Yeah, but I'm still scared to tell him, she sighed and ran her hand down her face. Honey, everything will be okay. Now go tell your man about the happy news, and if something happens, tell me. I'll happily break a hand or a foot. Now go so I can get dressed, I said, and she made her way to the door. I sighed, put on my clothes, and braided my hair. Lucasian POV. After I left for the meeting, all I could think about was my mate. For the past few days, she's been teasing me, and it's driving me crazy. Now I'm still in this boring meeting thinking about her. I was brought out of my thoughts by Alpha Ross. So with the rogues coming in and attacking the small pack, we need to be prepared, he said. I agree. We will talk strategies and how to keep everyone protected. We will also need more training for the packs, he said again. This is boring. It was Alpha Ross, Kristalina's dad and brother, and Ostino in the meeting. Kristalina's dad and brother looked bored out of their minds. Ostino, on the other hand, was sending me glares from across the table. This kid needs to stop glaring before he loses an arm. Okay, here's what we'll do. We wait for them to attack us. If we attack first, they will seek revenge and will be blinded by anger. Also, if your pack is in need of training, I will send my pack trainer over to you. This meeting will continue another time to give a report of how things are going, I said, and they got up. They all bowed and left. I sat down to do my alpha duties. Signing checks, going over bills, and creating new schedules for numerous things, which is hard because it has to combine everyone's schedule. A knock brought me out of my thoughts. I looked up to see my beautiful mate walking in. She smiled at me as I pulled her to sit on my lap. Hi, she said shyly. Hello, love. I trailed kisses down her neck while my hand was on her thigh, rubbing her exposed skin. So, what are you doing? She asked. Alpha stuff. I kissed her mark and she shivered. She sighed and arched her back. That's the best sound I've ever heard. She turned so that she was facing me and looked me in the eyes. Her eyes were dark green, a sign of desire. I looked down at her lips, then back at her eyes. I guessed she couldn't wait any longer, so she connected her lips to mine. She sighed, and I responded. She fought for dominance, but I won in the end. I slipped my hand under her shirt while she bit her lip and tugged my hair. I made sure my door was locked using my power, then laid her on my desk. Our lips met again, and she began unbuttoning my shirt. Lucasian, please, she begged. Please what? I asked, teasing her. Stop teasing me, she said, and I smirked. She gasped, arched her back more, and bit her lip. Let go of your lip. I want to hear you, I growled into her ear, and she shivered. I kissed her deeply as she whispered my name and held onto my shoulders. This happened for a while until she couldn't take it anymore. I smiled down at her, picked her up, and teleported into our room. I laid her down, took off her clothes, put on one of my shirts, and dressed her. I took off my pants and lay down with her, my beautiful mate. I love you, I said, then drifted off to sleep, but not before hearing, I love you too. Kristalina POV. I love you, he said. Did I love him? Of course I did. I love you too. I drifted off to sleep, but before I could, I was pulled into a vision. I was walking in the forest looking for something, but I didn't know what. I looked around and saw two hooded figures. I stepped closer, and a twig snapped under my foot. Their heads snapped in my direction, but they looked right past me as if I wasn't there. I needed to know who it was, so I started walking towards the figures. We need to act quickly so I can get what's mine, and you can get more territory, the person said. It was a guy. You need to trust me that we will both get what we want, the other said. Sorry, I don't trust rogues, the guy said. Another twig snapped, and the guys turned and looked into the forest. I gasped when I saw who it was. Right then, the vision started to fade, and I was back in the room. End of vision. I sat up instantly, and so did Lucasian. He looked at me to confirm what I saw, and I nodded my head at him. He let out a furious growl that would make anyone run for their life. I guess things got a little complicated. Chapter 24. I woke up in a strong pair of arms. I looked over at Lucasian and saw that he was still sleeping. I got up and went to the restroom. I took a shower and put my hair in a messy bun. I got out of the bathroom and put on my sports bra, spandex, and trainers. I looked over at Lucasian and saw he was still asleep, so I walked over and tried to wake him. Lucasian, get up, I said, shaking him, but he didn't move. I used my mermaid power to shoot water from my hand onto his face. He shot up out of bed and looked around the room before his eyes found mine. Hurry and get dressed. We're going to train the pack, I said, then walked out of the room. He growled and pulled me back into the room. What are you wearing? He asked, pointing to my clothes. Clothes. Now hurry up and get dressed so I can train that sorry excuse of a pack, I said, but he was still staring at me. He snapped out of it, went into the closet, and threw a muscle shirt at me. I gladly took it because I wasn't going to stand here and argue over it. Okay, now go get ready and meet me for breakfast, I said and walked out the door. When I got down to the kitchen, Talia was there trying to sneak and eat ice cream. Really? Ice cream at 7 in the morning, I said, and she turned around fast and dropped the ice cream on the floor with the spoon in her mouth. It's what the baby wanted. And I'm getting bigger like every day. And I'm emotional as hell, she said, and I walked over and hugged her. See, when you're a higher rank, your pregnancy is faster than the rest of the pack. Alpha's 3 months, Beta's 4, and Gamma's 6. Okay, put the ice cream away, and let's make you some breakfast, I said, smiling at her. I walked over to the fridge and took out the stuff for what I was preparing. We sang and danced around the kitchen until Laimus came and hugged Talia around the waist and rubbed her belly. They are so cute. My favorite song came on and I started singing. Guess it's true, I'm not good at a one-night stand. But I still need love 'cause I'm just a man. These nights never seem to go to plan. I don't want you to leave, will you hold my hand? Talia joined in and started singing. I looked over at her and smiled. Talia, oh, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. Me? Why am I so emotional? No, it's not a good look. Gain some self-control. And deep down I know this never works. But you can lay with me so it doesn't hurt. Talia and, oh, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. When the song was finished, I heard clapping. I turned around to see the guys smiling at me. Lucas came and hugged me around my waist and kissed my neck. I looked up at him and smiled because, goodness knows, he was tall. Hey, I said and pecked him on his lips. Hello, love. He smiled down at me. I turned back to the stove and looked at what was done. Well, everything was finished. Then I mind-linked my pack and told them that breakfast was ready and that we would be training. Hey guys, can you bring everything to the table, please? I asked and they nodded. When that was done, everyone came down and we ate, laughed, and enjoyed ourselves until Ostino and his pack came down. They looked around the room and frowned. Why didn't someone call us down? He asked. Firstly, it's a pack breakfast. Secondly, you and your pack can make your own breakfast, I said, and my pack chuckled. And lastly, I don't like you or your pack. Oh, and we have training in 30 minutes, and I wouldn't be late if I were you, I said and started to eat again. They walked out of the kitchen. 30 minutes later. Everyone was at the clearing except for Ostino's pack. No wonder their pack is so weak. I saw them walking to the clearing, smiling and laughing, but that's gonna change in a second. Okay, line up and give me 30 laps around the border, I said, and everyone from my pack moved, but the others were whining. Now, they started running with the others, and Lucas, and Roxana came and stood next to me. I watched them until they finished, then called them in. Okay, so we're doing 500 push-ups, then I'll tell you what else as we go on, I told them. Then I heard a whiny voice complain. Guess who it was? Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. Brittany. Like, why do we need to do so many? She twirled her hair, asking. Like, I don't know, maybe because, like, your pack is terrible. I imitated her, and she gasped and looked at Ostino, who was glaring at me as I care. Training was now over, and my pack was getting ready to host the barbecue since I was trying to get everyone relaxed. I went in my closet and picked out what I was wearing, shorts, a crop top, Converse, and some jewelry. I went to the bathroom, undressed, and went into the shower. 30 minutes later, I came out, dried my body off, and walked into the room to start getting ready. I heard the door open and saw Lucas come in looking exhausted. He gave me a small smile and went into the bathroom. I finished getting dressed and walked downstairs to help with whatever needed to be done. Before I turned the corner, I heard Ostino on the phone talking. Usually I would go, but something caught my attention. Look, I need more time, Ostino whispered harshly. You have until tonight to give me what I want, I heard the other voice say. Thanks to vampire hearing. Fine, Ostino said, then hung up and walked in the other direction. The idiot didn't even know that I was listening. I clenched my fist and let out a low growl. That guy is up to something. I walked into the kitchen and saw Roxana and Talia eating cookies. I sat down and thought about what I just heard. What does the man on the phone want? I heard the guys come into the kitchen, and Lucasian came over, lifted me up, walked into the living room, and sat me on his lap. I snuggled into his chest and watched the TV that was already on. After 3 episodes of The Walking Dead, best show ever, Lucasian and I walked outside. Everyone was having a good time talking, laughing, and eating. Lucasian and I split up. I went with the girls while he went to play football with the guys. I saw Lucasian's mom, went over and sat next to her. Hi, honey. How have you been? She asked while smiling at the children playing. I've been okay, I guess. With their pack visiting, it's been crazy. I sighed and took a cookie off the tray. Darling, I understand. So how are you and Lucasian? I looked over at him and smiled. I guess he felt me watching him because he turned and smiled at me, teeth and all. We're good, I said, blushing. Good, because I want grandbabies soon. As the words left her mouth, I started choking on my cookie. Mom, what are you doing to my mate? She's basically choking over here, I heard Lucasian say, giving me a bottle of water. I quickly got up and left the 2 of them there. She's blunt. I walked into the forest to clear my head. I stopped when I saw the moon in the sky. What Lucasian's mom said really got to me. I mean, would I be a good mom? Lucasian and I aren't even mated yet. I'm going to be fighting in a war. I'm queen of the supernatural, and, let's not forget, a gang leader. I was brought out of my thoughts by a mosquito biting me. I turned to walk back to the pack house when arms went around me, and I started to get lightheaded. Chloroform. That's all I thought before I passed out. Chapter 25. I groaned as I opened my eyes. Everything was blurry. I tried moving my hands, but they were bound to the chair I was sitting on. There was a slight whimpering from the side of the room. I looked over and saw a small girl curled up in the corner. She lifted her head, and I saw a familiar face, like a memory. It was Lucasian POV. Mom, what are you doing to my mate? She's basically dying over here, I said as I walked over to a red-faced Crystalina. She took the time to escape from my mom and went into the woods. Oh, honey, we were just talking, she said with an innocent smile. Oh, really? I crossed my arms. Yep. About grandchildren, she said, and I stared wide-eyed at her. She almost put words into my mouth. Mom, it's too early for that, don't you think? Oh, nonsense, son. The earlier the better. I'm not getting any younger, she said. Mom, you don't age, my wolf cut me off. Something is wrong. Fine mate, fine mate. Love, are you there? I tried to mind Link, but there was no response. I ran into the woods and tried to find her scent, but it disappeared. However, I did smell chloroform. Laemus, send the guards to the forest and get the children and women inside now, I mind-linked him. I didn't wait to hear what he said. I just blocked him and ran deeper into the woods. Crystalina POV. It was Serenite, Natalie's younger sister and an old pack member who we thought was gone. We looked for her until the pack link broke a month later. After that, Talia fell into a deep depression. It was sad, really, and that's why she joined the gang. Serenite, I called out to her. She was in the corner with her knees to her chin. Her clothes were ripped and dirty. I reached out, broke the chain off my hand, then off my foot. I walked over to Serenite, knelt, and brushed her hair out of her face. She still looked the same, with honey brown hair and innocent brown eyes. She looked up at me, and what I saw broke me. Her face was injured. Those people are going to pay. I picked her up and walked to the door before opening it. Seriously, who leaves doors open when you kidnap someone? Idiots. I walked through the hallway before I heard noise inside a room, a voice so familiar that I wanted to end him. I guess he smelled my scent, so he turned around. The word ugly couldn't describe him. And he made it worse by smiling. Ah, Crystalina. I see you're awake and I see you found little Serenite there. He smiled sinisterly, and I heard Sarah Knight whimper in my arms. Well, too bad I have to leave. Did I tell you how much I love lighters? I took the lighter out of my bra and threw it up in the air where the sprinkler was, and water went everywhere. While he looked in shock, I ran out of the room and made my way outside to the woods, where I knew it would be safe. I carefully laid Sarah Knight down on the ground to make her comfortable. I felt someone pushing through my mental block. Love, can you hear me? Kristalina, are you okay? I heard Lucasian mind link. It was a bit fuzzy because I was weak. Yes, I got away and I'm okay. I'm in the woods now, but the one who took me, I didn't end him, so he will come back for revenge. Lucasian, Ostino was the one that betrayed us. When I get back, I don't want to see him. He put all of our kind in danger for his own selfish reasons. I also found something I think is very interesting. Oh, and you could send the guards back because I'm on my way home right now. Thank goodness, love. Okay, I will send them off. Please just get home safe so we can talk about this and plan what we need to do, he said, then disappeared from my mind. I gently lifted Sarah Knight off the ground and held her in my arms. Then I concentrated on the pack house, and in no time, I was in the backyard. It was chaos back here. Guards were running around, and Lucasian was giving orders. I couldn't tell how happy I was to see him at that moment, and I didn't realize it until I saw the look on his face. When he turned around, he looked confused, seeing what I was holding. He walked up to me with a full-blown smile on his face. Hey, babe. I can't talk right now, but I'll be right back, or you can come with me to the pack hospital, I said, and he teleported us to the infirmary. Dr. Ames emerged from his office, looking frantic. He walked over to us, took Sarah Knight from my arms, and put her on the gurney. She whimpered in pain, then relaxed when she was comfortable. Doc, make sure she's okay and do everything you can to help her. He then turned to Sarah Knight's gurney and rolled her into a private room. I turned back to Lucasian and looked at him. I guess I have some explaining to do by the look on his face. I took his hand and led him to the chair that was in the corner. That was Talia's younger sister. She was taken a few years back, and we spent all day and night looking for her. Talia got really depressed and almost gave up, but she never completely lost hope, even when the pack bond was broken. And now Sarah Knight is alive. I found her when I was chained up in the basement. She was hurt and lost a lot of blood. When I finished, Lucasian held me and rubbed soothing circles on my back. Kristalina, aren't you forgetting something? You need to tell Talia something. Not that I wasn't enjoying being in the arms of my mate, Diamond said. I knew she was right. I was enjoying being with my mate when Talia could be with her sister. Natalie, could you come to the pack hospital now? It's kind of important. Well, it is important. I mind-linked her, and I got a response right away. Roger that, was her response. I don't know how she could be so jolly all the time. I turned to Lucasian and looked at him. All I could think was that we have one heck of a battle coming up, and I was worried about some of the pack members and how to keep them safe since we have 2 packs. Chapter 26. In the morning. I was in the kitchen making breakfast for the pack, so we could have early training. I started making pancakes, sausage, bacon, and hash browns with orange juice and milk, along with blueberry muffins. The guys started coming downstairs, grabbing their plates, and I saw that Talia had come down with bedhead and puffy eyes. After last night, I didn't think she would stop crying. Flashback. Talia came running into the infirmary. She had a smile on her face, then she stopped and looked at me, and saw that blood was all over my clothes. She looked at me, confused, and then I looked into her eyes and showed her my memories. You could see the shock and horror she felt, then it turned to relief, happiness, and then pain. I stood up and held her. She cried so hard until the doctor came out and told us that she had 2 broken ribs, her wrist was broken, and she had internal bleeding. Talia picked herself up off the floor because while the doctor was talking, she had fallen down crying. She asked Dr. Ames if she could go in, and he said yes, and then she disappeared into the room. End of flashback. As I looked more closely, I could see she was struggling with her emotions. I wish she didn't have to go through this all over again, but I'm happy that Sarah Knight came back so that she could stop blaming herself. Everyone came downstairs to eat now, and everyone was quiet. And it's never quiet at breakfast. Ostino's pack made it awkward. Okay, so let me tell you what happened after I left the hospital last night. Flashback. Lucasian and I went to the holding cell. When I got there, I saw Ostino bound in chains sitting down in the corner of the bed. As soon as I saw him, his face transformed into the biggest smirk I've seen. How can the moon goddess match me with someone like him, a narcissistic jerk? So you think you won just because I'm in here doesn't mean there isn't going to be a war. He didn't look at Lucasian, and if looks could kill, I think he would have turned into dust. That is where you're wrong. I always win. I always come out on top because I'm willing to fight for the people I love, meaning my packs. Oh yeah, I have to thank you for that. I wonder how Papa Reyes would feel because you failed him. I taunted him. I could see he was battling with his wolf, and he had a murderous look on his face. With that, I smirked and walked out with Lucasian's hands on my waist. Flashback over. Because Ostino failed his pack, the title was taken from him and given to Lucasian and me. We now have a mega pack, so that means we are untouchable and invincible. So, back to breakfast again. It was awkward. Okay, we need to go train, and then we will have the ceremony to welcome you to the pack, but be sure we are not forcing you. You are free to do as you wish, I explained, and he nodded and continued eating, all except one. Brittany. She got up from the table, and her chair screeched. She just looked at me and nodded her head, then walked up the stairs. A few minutes later, she came down with luggage in her hand. She set them down and looked at me. I can't stay in your pack. I'm going to live with my aunt and uncle from the Red Hound pack, she said, picked up her bags, and walked out the door. Thank goodness, one less headache. After that, everyone put their plates in the dishwasher and went outside. Lucasian came and wrapped his arm around my waist, and we walked to the training field. Once we got there, I took off the jumper I was wearing and gave instructions. 30 minutes later, we did a 3-mile lap warm-up, and now we are going to practice hand-to-hand combat. I paired everyone off into groups and started. 1 hour later, we finished practice and went back into the house to wash up. I made my way to our room to take a shower. When I went inside, Lucasian was already there in all his glory with a towel wrapped around his waist. Sigh. I stood there gaping. Then I realized what he was doing, so I turned away from him and went into the bathroom. I undressed, hopped in the shower, and did what I had to do. When I got out of the shower, I wrapped a towel around my body and one around my hair. I left the bathroom to see Lucasian on the bed putting on his shoes. He looked up, saw me staring at him, and looked confused. Get dressed. We're going out, he said, then turned back to his shoes. Really? I went to the closet and pulled out a white floral print dress, brown sandals, and a brown shoulder bag. I put them on the bed, then walked over to my drawer and took out my undergarments. I dropped the towel to put on my undergarments, but suddenly a growl sounded in the room. I turned around to see Lucasian staring at me. His eyes were turning 2 different colors, and I bit my lip. I guess he snapped out of it, looked me in the eyes, and smirked. Do hurry up, love. I'll be downstairs. He walked out of the room and shut the door. Ugh, he's torturing us, Diamant said, and the others agreed. I know, right? I put on my clothes, curled my hair, and did my makeup, nothing too major, just some lip gloss and mascara. When I was finished, I put on my shoes, grabbed my phone, purse, and other necessities, and stuffed them into my shoulder bag. I walked out the door to the bedroom and made my way downstairs to meet Lucasian. When I made it to the last stair, Lucasian was there. He was gaping like a fish. He snapped out of it, walked up to me, and kissed my cheek. You look beautiful, love, he complimented, and I shivered at the sound of his voice. I could tell he was smirking at my reaction. Thanks. You look handsome too. I smiled at him. He took my hand and walked us out of the house. We stopped in front of his car, and he opened the door for me. Thank you, I whispered as he closed the door. He walked around his side and got in. He backed out of the driveway. I turned on the radio because it was too silent, but it was a comfortable silence. I like music. This one song came on and I started singing. It was Ariana Grande and Chris Brown, Don't Be Gone Too Long. I dug a single seed into the ground. I hope it grows. In a year or two if you're around. You'll see a rose. Pack me up and keep me hidden somewhere that you find me. On this train to Paris, going nowhere, draw the bridge behind me. Don't be gone too long. 'Cause you won't be there to love me when you're gone. Don't be gone too long. Who's going to love me when you're gone? Before I could finish the song, the station switched to a commercial. Really? I felt Lucasian's hand on my leg and I gasped. His touch sent me into a frenzy, and I could feel the tension in the car. I tried to hold in a sigh when his hand moved slightly. I suddenly grabbed his hand and held it where it was so that he couldn't go any further. I looked at him, but he was still looking at the road, and I saw the little smirk on his face. For the rest of the ride, his hand stayed there. The car stopped, and I looked out the window. Trees surrounded us, and I was curious to see where he was bringing me. I didn't know that he came to open my door until he was at my shoulder and held his hand out. He lifted me into his arms, and I let out a little squeal. I couldn't see anything, and I started to panic and move around in his arms. Shoo, love. I just blinded you for a second. I don't need you peeking now, do we? He said, and I felt a cool breeze brushing against my skin, and then it was gone. He took the blindfold from my eyes, and I turned around. What I saw was terrific. It was a clearing, with a single tree decorated with lights, and beneath the tree sat a table with candles. I looked up at Lucasian and saw that he was staring back at me. He was leaning in, and I followed the action, and then our lips touched. Sparks flew everywhere, and I sighed into his mouth. This continued until I pulled back and rested my head on his chest. This is amazing, Lucasian. Thank you, I whispered into his chest. Let's go enjoy our dinner, love. He walked us over to the table and pulled out my chair. I was still in awe that he would do something like this. He lifted the cover off the food, and I saw he had made my favorite shrimp pasta with champagne on the side. I want to say something. Kristalina, never in a million years did I think that I would have found my mate. I lost all hope 100 years ago. And the day I saw you in school, I was so ecstatic and lost for words. From that moment, I promised myself that I will cherish you always and forever. And in the little time that I spent with you, I fell more in love. Kristalina, you brought me back from the darkness that surrounded my heart. And I want to say I love you so much, he said, and I could tell it was true because his eyes said it all. It's funny because I feel the same way. Lucasian, I love you too. I confessed to him, and he walked around the table and brought me into a passionate kiss, which had me weak-kneed and lasted 5 minutes. As much as I love kissing you, can we please eat? He went back to sit down, and we ate in silence, giving each other glances now and then. As we finished our dinner, he uncovered the last plate, and it was a cake, a red velvet cake. I sighed happily at the sight of the cake, and he looked at me and growled playfully. I pouted at him, and he chuckled under his breath. He cut a piece and handed it to me. I didn't even say thank you before I dove in. I savored every bite I took. Finally, he lifted me out of my chair. He laid me down on the floor. He started kissing me around my neck and bit into my mark. I began to undress him. We grew closer, skin to skin, lost in the moment and each other. The connection was intense, passionate, and everything I had ever dreamed of. As we became one, our bond solidified, making us complete. It was a magical night under the stars, just Lucasian and me. That was amazing. I snuggled into his neck. He kissed my temple and held me closer. I love you, he said. I love you too, forever and always, I said, then dozed off. Chapter 27. I woke up to birds chirping. I looked around and saw we were still in the woods. The tree we were under had vines that hid us from view. Lucasian was sleeping peacefully, his arm around my waist. I also looked down to find that I wasn't wearing any clothes and blushed at the thought of last night. I felt kisses trailing down my back. Every time his lips touched my skin, I felt like I was on fire. It was like the effect of the mate bond grew 10 times stronger. Good morning, I said as I turned around and pecked him on the lips. Good morning, love. He pulled me down on him, and I wrapped my legs around his waist and snuggled into his side. I would love to stay like this, but we have to go, he said, running his hand through my hair. Yeah, you're right, I said, getting up only to be pulled back down. Who said we couldn't stay a little longer, he said, and pulled me close. We were now driving home. It was silent in the car, yet comfortable. Our hands were clasped together on his leg. Wow, a few months ago I wouldn't have thought I would be here, rejected and all. I wouldn't have had this happiness. I was pulled out of my thoughts by the car stop. Lucas came around and opened my door. He wrapped his arms around my waist, and we stood together. When we walked into the house, it was quiet. We walked into the kitchen and found Talia and Laimus. He was on his knees talking to her belly while she sat on the counter, looking annoyed with a slight smile on her face. I took my phone out and took a picture of them because they looked so cute together. She was due any time now. Thank goodness, because she was going to stop complaining and eating weird things like raspberries and cream cheese. I was surprised she didn't get a stomachache. Lucas cleared his throat, looked away, and smiled. Talia had that look on her face, as if she knew exactly what had happened. You already know what happened, so why give you the details? I mind-linked her. Lucas let go of my waist and went over to Laimus, who started making breakfast. We all knew that the guys could cook, but it was sweet of him to try. Let's see how long it lasts. You're right, but hey, it's worth a try. Talia shrugged as she ate her yogurt. So, how's Serenite? I asked while I grabbed a grape and popped it in my mouth. She's doing fine, still adjusting to the changes, and she still has nightmares. It makes me sad that I can't do anything about them, you know. She'll be okay. She's a fighter, just like her big sister. I hugged her. We were having our moment until I smelled something burning. We both turned our heads, looking at Laimus and Lucas in the kitchen, trying to put out the fire they'd started. I quickly went to the stove and turned it off. Then I opened the window. There was still some smoke in the kitchen, so I used my wind element to carry it outside. I turned around and glared at the guys, and they both looked sheepish, rubbing their necks. Get out of the kitchen before you burn us alive. I waved them out. Let's make breakfast for these two clowns, Talia said while rubbing her baby bump. I grabbed the stuff that we needed to make breakfast. Talia waited until I was finished before we both started mixing ingredients. We began on waffles, eggs, croissants, bread, fruit salad, omelets, ham, coffee, orange juice, and milk. Once we were finished, we found the guys in the living room, watching the Barcelona-Real Madrid game. Goodness, Neymar Jr. is attractive. I heard a growl and I looked over at Lucas, who was giving me death glares. I smiled nervously and walked back to the kitchen. We all sat down at the table and dug in. I noticed there was water on the floor. Okay, which one of you spilled the water on the floor? I asked, looking at them accusingly. Cries, that is water, but that's my water, Talia said, and the guys looked at her, confused. Men. Oh no. Lucas, go get her bag. Laimus, bring her to the PAC hospital, I ordered them. I didn't understand why I wasn't freaking out. They both got up and did what I told them. I saw Talia squeeze Laimus's hand tightly, and I was thankful that it wasn't me. He put her in the car and then drove off to the hospital. Lucas came down with the bag, and I grabbed the keys off the counter and walked outside. I quickly got into the driver's seat and started the car while Lucas got in beside me. In that moment, I realized that I was going to be an aunt. We both jumped out of the car and ran inside the hospital, following Laimus's scent. Laimus paced outside, looking worried. Lucas walked up to him while I looked through the window of Talia giving birth. Man, what if I'm not good enough to be a father? I heard Laimus say. How cute. You'll be a great dad, man. Now get in there and be with her. Lucas slapped Laimus on the back and pushed him into the room. Lucas then walked over to me and held me gently by my waist while we both looked into the room. Once I saw the baby come out, a single tear slipped down my cheek. I watched as Laimus held the baby in awe, and Talia smiled at them. I couldn't help but wish that it was Lucas and me. As if on cue, he kissed my cheek and whispered, "You won't have to wait long, love." He wrapped both his hands around my waist while still looking at the happy couple. Alpha. We turned around to see Bradley, one of our patrol members, staggering into the hospital. He fell on the floor before he passed out. Rogues. That one word caused an uproar. Why can't we have a normal day? Normal is boring. Now let's handle this, Diamant growled out. Chapter 28. Bodies and chaos were the only things I saw on the field. After Bradley passed out on the floor, we sounded the alarm, telling everyone to prepare. Half the guards helped the women and children into the underground camp. The pack was in complete chaos. Everyone was running around. I went in my weapon room and prepared for what was to come next, a fierce battle. I put on my armor and gun holder and tucked a couple of knives into my boots. I was also working on a new experiment, but I didn't know what it was fully capable of because I didn't have time to test it. So, I hoped it did what I had in mind and didn't create rainbows and sunshine, long story. After I got ready, I walked out of the room and bumped into Lucas, who was dressed for battle. Let's go, he commanded. I raised my eyebrow but followed him, and we walked out together. He looked so attractive in that vest, Sarah, my witch, said, and the others agreed. I could almost see the drooling. Could you guys pay attention? I rolled my eyes and gasped at what I saw. Chaos and conflict were the only things I saw on the field. Many rogues were fighting. I teleported to the middle of the field to help my pack. I grabbed my weapon and aimed for anything with red eyes and a foul stench. One of them was going to attack Cotton from the back, but I threw a knife at it and moved to the other. After neutralizing most of the rogues, I was exhausted. My, Crystalina. You've grown. I heard a voice behind me. I turned around and gasped at the sight. Uncle Gabriel? I said in shock. I couldn't think properly. My mind was jumbled and hazy. The one person that I didn't know would betray me was alive and well in the flesh. Gabriel was killed a year back due to a rogue attack. His body wasn't found, and his wife said she felt their connection break. What made this so bad was that everyone mourned his death. He was a part of everyone, especially my mom, because he was her brother. Hello, niece. I saw a wicked smirk form on his face, and he grabbed me and lifted me up by my throat. Why? Why do all of this? I managed to get out as he squeezed the air out of me. I want to be king, that's why. If you weren't born with that brother of yours, I would be. He threw me into the tree that was a couple of feet from us. I shakily got up, focusing on healing my throat. When I'm done with you, you'll beg for the end, and I'll start with your family, then your beloved mate. You will beg for mercy. While he was talking, I was reading his mind. The terrible things that he had done, the many lives he had taken, like his wife and kids. When I was done, I gave him a disgusted look. Well, that's too bad, I said, then kicked him in the chest. He flew back from the impact. You'll regret that. He raised his hands, and I saw black flame cover his hands. Was that supposed to frighten me? He started throwing the fire, but my body absorbed it. The look on his face went from shock to fear, and it was satisfying. Did you think that you can beat me? I'm invincible. Crystalina, let me take over, Demonia said. I could feel her coming out, so I did what she said. After that, everything went black. Lucasian POV. I looked around me and saw that my mate was missing from my side. Then I saw a knife fly across and pierce a rogue. The wolf turned to ash, and Cotton let out a breath. I continued defeating rogues until I was furious at the sight of my sister being attacked by one of them. I lifted my hand, and the rogues froze with fear. I was glowing red with a hint of black. They started coming at me, and I twisted my hand, neutralizing them in the process. After they were all down, I started helping the pack and getting everyone healed. I went over to Roxana, and she had a side injury. I gently set my hand on it, and it began to recover along with the other bruises on her body. I helped her up so she could walk over to the others. Suddenly, I felt a shift in the air, and it was powerful. I looked over to the far right to see Crystalina and a man, but she didn't look the same. She looked intense. The man was shaking in fear now, but Crystalina didn't care. In one swift movement, she had him in the air. She took out a dagger from her shoe and struck the man on his arm. What shocked me was when the man's skin began to dissolve into thin air. Kristalina had a smile on her face while she fought him. Finally, she stopped and moved her hand over his heart. She then struck his chest, delivering the final blow. The man's face turned white, his body went rigid, and he fell to the ground. She then took one of her arrows and struck him, and his body turned to ash. She walked over to a rock before standing on it. The rogues' bodies began floating in the air before turning to ash, like the man. She started turning from her demon form back to Kristalina, the girl I know and love. My mouth dropped open. Kristalina POV. As Demonia gave me back control, I looked around to see the bodies of the defeated rogues gone, and so was Gabriel's. The guard was looking at me with pride and awe. Lucasian's mouth dropped open, and his eyes were wide. I walked up to him confused. As I walked up, his face turned into awe. Then he made a mirror with his hand and showed it to me. My hair was a purple and black ombre, and my eyes shifted color like my creature's. I tried to make it go back to the way it was, but I couldn't. After 5 minutes of trying, I gave up. I felt like I was going to pass out. I was physically and mentally tired. Everyone head back to the pack house and bring the ones that are injured to the pack hospital, Lucasian ordered, then picked me up bridal style. I love you, I told him, kissing his cheek. I love you too, and our pup. He smiled down at me. I was shocked, then my face broke out into a little smile. How did you know? I noticed that your scent changed when we were at the hospital. I didn't want to let you fight, but I had to because you would have anyway. I just put a protection spell on you, he explained, walking to the pack house. As we grew near, I saw defeated rogues around the force field that I put on the pack house. Lucasian twisted his hand, and the bodies disappeared. Nice. We walked into the pack house, and everything looked like we had left it. The women were in the kitchen cooking, and the children were playing. It was like nothing had happened 2 hours ago. Everyone was happy and safe. Let's go, you need to rest. He carried me upstairs to our room, then removed our outer clothes. He placed me on the bed before he got on, and we were both knocked out. Chapter 29. It's been 3 weeks since the war and 3 weeks since I found out that I was pregnant. Lucasian hasn't left my side except for pack meetings and to visit other packs. The pack has flourished, and the mateless members started finding their mates. Talia's little baby boy, Domenico, was released a week ago because the doctor said he was too small and kept him for observation. I looked in the mirror as I fixed my hair and makeup. Today I'm going to find out what I'm having and when I'm going to give birth. My stomach has grown and looks like I'm about to pop, and since I have like 7 different supernatural sides, my pregnancy is different. I remember last week, in the game room, beating Cotton at Call of Duty. Next thing I know, my belly went from a honeydew to a full-grown watermelon. Cotton let out a high-pitched scream and ran out of the room, yelling "Alien baby," drawing everyone's attention to me. He hasn't talked to me since that day, and every time he sees me around the house, he turns the other way. I walked out of the room, not paying attention to where I was going, and I collided with someone. I looked up to see Lucasian looking down at me. "You need to look where you're going, love." He studied me and looked to see if I was hurt. I rolled my eyes and hugged him because I hadn't seen him all morning. "I miss you." I rested my head on his chest while his hand was still around my waist. "I miss you too." I let go of him and grabbed his hand, dragging him with me because I had forgotten what I was doing while I was in his arms. I dragged him all the way to the pack hospital, ignoring his protests for me to slow down, but I was excited. I wanted to know what I have. "Babe, slow down." He wrapped his arms around my waist while we waited at the front desk. A lady came out of one of the doors and approached the counter. "Alpha Luna." She bowed in respect. "Hello, Marianne. We came to see Dr. Scotty," Lucasian said. "Yes. You can go into her office. She just came out of a meeting." We thanked Marianne and walked to Dr. Scotty's office. "Come on in, Luna, Alpha." Dr. Scotty's voice rang through the room. Lucasian and I walked into the office and took a seat. I was really nervous to hear what she had to say. "Okay, Luna, you came in last week and we took an ultrasound." I nodded my head to confirm that what she said was right, and she continued. "So the pups are healthy and are growing at a rapid pace, seeing that you have 7 supernaturals. And I can see that your belly has grown over the week. She finished, but I was still stuck on pups. Lucasian's hand tightened around my waist, but not enough to hurt the babies. I'm having twins. Oh my gosh, I'm having twins. That's like twice the noise, twice the food, and twice the work. I was taken out of my thoughts when Dr. Scotty asked if we wanted to see the babies. Yes, please. Lucasian and I followed her into a room for an ultrasound. I lay on the little bed. She put the gel on my belly and then scanned my belly. Then I saw the image of my babies on the monitor, and a tear fell from my eye. There are the babies. The boy is on the left and the girl is on the right, she said as she pointed to the image. The whole time Lucasian had been quiet, so I looked over at him, and he had the biggest smile on his face. Babe, are you alright? I asked, and he walked over to me. He placed his hand on the side of my belly, then put a kiss on my head. Dr. Scotty stepped out of the room to print the ultrasound. I'm perfect. I just can't believe that I'm having pups with my beautiful mate. I literally cooed at what he just said, but I can't believe that I'm having a baby at 17. Well, on the bright side, I get to spend forever with my family. Okay, Luna, here are the pictures, and from looking at your data, your due date is probably at the end of next week or the following week. Dr. Scotty handed me the picture. I hugged her and said bye before walking out of her office with Lucasian in tow. I was in the room getting ready for the barbecue since the pack hadn't spent any time together, and, being the fun person I am, I planned the whole thing. And Lucasian also wanted to celebrate the graduates because that's a big thing in our pack, education. I looked in the mirror to see if I was missing anything. I just had on a simple dress since I can't fit into most of my clothes anymore, the struggles. When I was finished, I made my way downstairs, making sure I took my time walking down the stairs. I made my way to the back door as soon as my foot touched the last step. Everything was in place, even though I had to bribe some of the guys, even Lucasian. I made my way over to the food since I was feeding 2 extra. I picked up a cupcake and devoured it in 2 bites. I felt something on my leg and my first instinct was to move away, but then I felt tiny hands. I looked down to see Aiden, the Delta's mate's son, on my leg. I picked him up off the ground, and he immediately started playing with my hair. Hi, Aiden, where's mommy? I asked, but my hair entranced him. It happens a lot since my hair is purple. Pretty. He glanced at me, then back at my hair. I moved us to sit on the blanket across from where the guys were playing football. Once he saw his dad, he clapped and cheered. His smile was so big you could see his 2 little teeth peeking through. Yay, Dada. He clapped, bouncing in place. Ryan turned around and looked at his son, cheering him on. He started walking up to Aiden, and we stood up and met him halfway. Ryan picked him up and threw him in the air. I took my phone out and took a picture of them. I felt arms around my waist, and I immediately knew it was Lucasian because of the sparks that spread through my body. Hey, baby. I turned around and greeted him. Hello, love. You look beautiful. He placed a chaste kiss on my lips. Thanks, but you're all sweaty. Go clean up and don't use my body wash, I said, and he frowned. Last week I bought a new body wash, and Lucasian accidentally used it and hasn't stopped since then. It's funny because he walks around the pack house all manly, but smells all fruity and flowery. Okay, I'll be down in a few minutes. He kissed me on the forehead and made his way into the pack house. I walked over to Talia and covered her eyes. Guess who? I changed my voice to my demon voice and asked, you're not Liamus, so you're either Josh. My eyes widened when Liamus walked up at the same time she said Josh's name. Who is Josh? I quickly removed my hands from her eyes and scooted away from them. I bumped into something hard. I turned around and came face to face with Lucasian's chest. You're in trouble, he whispered in my ear with a growl. But I didn't do anything. Well, not that I know of, I said innocently, trying to make my escape. Oh my gosh, look, as soon as he looked back, I walked away and blended into the crowd. I walked over to the karaoke stage and listened to them sing, even though some of it was hurting my eardrums. I loved seeing the smiles on their faces. Next up we have Sarah Knight. Maddie, a pack member, said, and I saw Sarah Knight on the stage. I felt a hand on my shoulder and I looked up at Talia. She was looking ahead and I turned and did the same. I could tell that Serenite was nervous standing up there. The song started, and she let out a breath. When tomorrow comes, I'll be on my own. Feeling frightened of the things that I don't know. When tomorrow comes, tomorrow comes, tomorrow comes. And though the road is long, I look up to the sky. And in the dark I found lost hope that I won't fly. And I sing along, I sing along, and I sing along. I got all I need when I got you, and I look around me and see a sweet life. I'm stuck in the dark, but you're my flashlight. You're getting me through the night. Kickstart my heart when you shine it in my eyes. Can't lie, it's a sweet life. Stuck in the dark, but you're my flashlight. You're getting me through the night. 'Cause you're my flashlight. The whole time, she was looking at Talia and me. I felt myself tear up, and I felt Lucasian lace his fingers through my own. I looked up at him, but he was already looking at me. I felt Talia let go of me, and he pulled me into his arms. We swayed as she sang. She had a beautiful voice. I see the shadows long beneath the mountaintop. I'm not afraid when the rain won't stop. 'Cause you light the way. You light the way. You light the way. I got all I need when I got you, and I look around me and see a sweet life. I'm stuck in the dark, but you're my flashlight. I love you. I sent all that I was feeling through our bond. And I love you, he said, and I felt a surge of emotion, love, happiness, excitement, and contentment. I looked around at everyone as she finished, and it's incredible how a 16-year-old mesmerized them. Even Coleman had tears in his eyes. Everyone started clearing out and going back home.
Introductory author commentary. I think the most powerful part of any journey isn't just the final victory, it's the quiet, domestic peace that follows a lifetime of war. In this epilogue, I wanted to show you the after. After the rejection, after the battles with rogues, and after claiming the throne, we find Crystalina in a kitchen chasing a toddler. Pay attention to the emotional shift here. We are moving from the high-octane survival of a gang leader and a royal to the vulnerable, beautiful chaos of motherhood. I've infused this chapter with a sense of earned happiness, but as you listen, look for the small hints that the next generation, with their developing, dangerous powers, might just be even more formidable than their parents. This is the moment where the armor finally comes off, not because she's weak, but because she's finally safe.
Epilogue. 3 years later. Ash Jeremiah Phillips. Get back here now. I was running around trying to catch my son, who decided to run around the pack house naked. No, Mommy. You can't catch me. He laughed while running. He circled the kitchen, then made his way over to the living room, only to be stopped by a foot. Why are you giving your mom trouble, son? Lucasian asked. Why is it that every time his son misbehaves, he's there at the right time to save him? Dad. He screamed in surprise, then suddenly got all happy. I understand, though. Lucasian has been visiting other packs and covens since he became king of the werewolves. We officially accepted our titles 1 year after I had the twins. Have you been good to Mom and Alex? He asked, putting him down on the floor and walking over to a sleeping Alex. Her name is Alexis Caitlin Phillips. She's the quiet baby, the one who sits and observes everything around her. Her brother is the total opposite, the troublemaker who gets in trouble every other second for things that should be impossible. Last week, he set the living room carpet on fire, but I later learned it was because his powers were developing. Their powers have been coming in slowly, but his are more on the dangerous side, while Alex's powers are simple and don't cause a lot of damage, for now at least. Anyway, a lot has happened over the last 3 years. Talia and Liamus are married, and their son is thriving. They're actually expecting their second child right now. My brother found his mate, and you wouldn't believe who it is. Roxana. Yep, Lucasian's sister. He actually found out the same time Lucasian, and I found out we were mates, but they kept it a secret until I walked in on them kissing in the laundry room. Their faces were hilarious when I took a picture and sent it to both our packs. Serenite is doing well. She just graduated from high school, and she has found her mate. She still has nightmares, but she's getting better. My mom and dad have been great, and they're actually visiting later on, along with Lucasian's parents. Everyone else in the pack is doing great and happy. Mama, I heard a tiny voice call. I looked down and saw Alex crawling over to me. Her eyes still held sleepiness. I met her halfway and picked her up. She's so lazy because she can walk. Guess she gets that from me. Hey, hon, what do you need? I asked, and she pointed to something behind me. I turned to see her pointing at the cookies I'd just baked. Okay, sweetie, but you're only getting one. I gave her one cookie, and she crawled over to the sofa. I felt arms around my waist, and I melted at the touch. Hi, sweetheart, Lucasian said as he kissed behind my ear. Hey, how were the meetings? I turned around so that I was facing him. It was okay. It could have been better if two alphas didn't start a fight. He sighed and buried his face in my neck, kissing my mark. Let me guess, Alpha Cain and Alpha Marcus? I asked, already knowing it was those two. Yeah. It took 6 other alphas to get them off each other, he said, shaking his head. Then he turned to me, smiling, and I looked at him, confused. I believe we have a reunion to set up, he said, then walked to the back door. I smiled, then followed him. I walked out the back door to see everyone in the backyard. Lucasian and I invited 3 neighboring packs to join us. Join me on the stage, Lucasian mind-linked me. As I made my way to the stage, everyone parted and made way for me. What the heck was going on? Lucasian held my hand as I reached him and took the microphone. I took a look at everyone who had a smile on their face. Crystalina, when I first met you, I couldn't tell you how elated I was to finally find the one person I would spend the rest of eternity with. Even though you were a little rough around the edges and we had our problems. Nobody is perfect, but in my eyes, you are and always will be. His eyes held so much love that my vision blurred and tears threatened to spill. He got down on one knee and I gasped. I guess what I'm trying to say is, Crystalina, will you give me the honor of being my wife? He asked. The tears spilled from my eyes and down my cheeks. I nodded my head and his index finger wiped my tears as he slipped on the ring that I didn't know he had. The pack cheered happily at their Alpha and Luna. Minutes later, members congratulated me as I walked around the yard. I found Lucasian and Liamus with the kids, and I laughed. The kids were giving them a hard time. Talia walked up to them, picked up Dom from his father, and waddled off with him. I walked over, took Ash and Alex off their father, and headed to the food table, ignoring their protests and whining. I sat them down and made them a plate of food. I felt arms around me, and I knew instantly who it was. Who would have thought that I would have a loving mate and a family after the struggles that I went through? Who would have thought that being rejected would bring me happiness and, most of all, family? I was content with the life I created.
Author's insight. I think the choice to give Ash dangerous powers like setting the carpet on fire is my way of showing that the struggle for balance never truly ends. It's a beautiful risk, they have found peace, but their children are literal sparks that could ignite a new kind of chaos. It reinforces that Crystalina's role as a leader hasn't ended, it has simply evolved from leading a gang to guiding the most powerful bloodline in existence. End of chapter analysis. In my opinion, this epilogue serves as the ultimate FU to the rejection that started this story. Crystalina's final reflection, that being rejected was the catalyst for this happiness, is the emotional core of the entire book. I intentionally chose to end with a public proposal to solidify her status, not just as a mate, but as a queen who is celebrated by her people. The power imbalance we saw in earlier chapters has completely dissolved into a partnership of equals. Lucasian's proposal isn't about claiming her, it's about a lifelong commitment after they've already survived the worst the world could throw at them. They aren't just characters anymore, they are the foundation of a new era for the supernatural world. Audience engagement questions. The cycle of power, with Ash already showing dangerous powers at such a young age, do you think Crystalina's past as a gang leader will help or hinder her in raising him? The best revenge. Crystalina realized her rejection was actually a gift. Have you ever had a rejection in your life that actually led you to something much better? Second chances. My brother and Roxana kept their bond a secret for a long time. Do you think they were right to wait until the war was over, or should they have been honest from the start? What would you do? If you were the king of the werewolves and had to handle alphas fighting at meetings, would you be as patient as Lucas, or would you use your power to shut it down instantly? Their story has reached its sunset, but in the eyes of their children, a new and perhaps more dangerous dawn is just beginning. Would you like me to go back and do a deep dive into the most intense battle chapters, or should we look at a what-if scenario for Austen's fate?